Chapter 88. Let you pretend, here's 100 kwai. Keep the change. Zhou Ruoming took out 100 kwai note and slapped it in front of Mrs. Tang. He didn't want to stay another minute. Lin Yi was watching him, and it made him feel uncomfortable. That won't do, Mrs. Tang said, looking for change. Ruoming waved his hand with a bitter smile before turning around and leaving without a second glance back. Mrs. Tang had thought that Zhou Ruoming wouldn't be able to get the money back for the meal. They'd ordered 50 to 60 kwai worth of food and drinks, and Mrs. Tang only earned around 100 kwai a day. She'd lost half of it in one go, and while it was a pity, she didn't dare ask Zhou Ruoming for the money. She didn't think that one word from Lin Yi would make Zhou Ruoming pay up like a good boy, and he didn't even need the change. Mrs. Tang couldn't help but feel grateful towards Lin Yi. They were all young masters at school. But why was there such a big difference between them? Look at Lin Yi, he looked like a gentleman. And look at that Zhou Ruoming, the only thing missing was that his face was a bully. But the bully was slapped in the face by a gentleman, and didn't even dare make a sound before running away. The thought made her look at Lin Yi a lot more pleasing to the eye. She looked at Tang Yin, who was still standing there, staring at Lin Yi and Kong Xiaobo, not knowing what she was thinking. Yin, what are you doing? Aren't you going to help your classmates? Tang Yin didn't think that Lin Yi and Kong Xiaobo would be sitting at her barbecue stand asking for food. As far as she was concerned, Kong Xiaobo jumping out to fight Zhou Ruoming was most likely ordered by Lin Yi. He probably had the same thoughts as Zhou Ruoming, and their target was her. Other than that, Tang Yin didn't know what else could attract the attention of these young masters. Although Lin Yi wasn't as blatant as Zhou Ruoming, and was instead a gentleman, Lin Yi was even more of a hypocrite in Tang Yin's eyes. He was just fighting Zhou Ruoming and Fatty, and now he was sitting there like a good student. Who was he trying to fool? Especially when she saw that her mother seemed to have a good impression of Lin Yi, and even asked her to serve them. Tang Yin was even more annoyed. She only asked for 100 kwai for you. How could you fall for it so easily? Tang Yin was like a little hedgehog. She had been through all these years, and her heart had been locked tightly. Whenever a boy approached her, she would be on guard. But since her mother had called her, Tang Yin could only agree, no matter how unwilling she was. She went to the stand and took 2 bottles of beer and placed them on Lin Yi and Kong Xiaobo's table. She didn't even look at them and returned to Mrs. Tang's side. Wine starter. Kong Xiaobo saw that Tang Yin only took the bottle of beer and didn't pick up the starter, and that Tang Yin was unhappy. He could only smile bitterly and ask carefully, Yin, what's wrong? Can you open the bottle for your classmate? Mrs. Tang didn't know what was going on with Tang Yin. She was fine just a moment ago, but all of a sudden her face turned cold. She lowered her head like she was wronged when facing Zhou Ruoming, but when facing Lin Yi, she turned on him just because he was a nice guy? If Tang Yin knew what her mother was thinking, she would explode in anger. He was polite, and polite? Just now, he had sent the fierce-faced Fatty flying with a slap. Was that considered gentlemanly? It's fine. Lin Yi smiled. He didn't know what he did to piss off this pretty girl. Lin Yi could see that Tang Yin's attitude wasn't good, but he didn't mind it. He just thought that she was acting like a little girl. With that, Lin Yi picked up the bottle and flicked the cap with his thumb, and the bottle was opened. Xiaobo's bottle followed the same pattern. You, only your classmate is easy to talk to. If it was the previous Zhou Ruoming, he would have destroyed the stall. Mrs. Tang looked at her daughter helplessly. You don't want me to do business anymore? Go back to school. I don't need you here anymore. Tang Yin felt wronged after being scolded by her mother. What did she mean by my classmate is easy to talk to? How could he be easy to talk to? How could the Big Four be easy to talk to? Look at how polite he is. Don't you know that he's just putting on an act? Is he trying to chase after your daughter? All right, the tofu rolls are done. Hurry up and send them over. Mrs. Tang said as she handed the tofu rolls to Tang Yin. Oh. Tang Yin took the tofu rolls angrily and slowly walked over to Lin Yi. The more she looked at Lin Yi's calm face, the more irritated she felt. When she reached Lin Yi's side, Tang Yin didn't know where the courage came from, but she pretended to step on Lin Yi's foot carelessly. Humph, aren't you pretending to be polite? You want to please my mother? No way, I won't let you. If you want to pretend to be polite in front of me, then fine, I'll stomp you to death and see if you'll get mad. Lin Yi was a bit surprised to be stepped on by Tang Yin out of nowhere. He raised his head and looked at Tang Yin, who had a dark expression on her face. Although the force wasn't really painful to Lin Yi should at least defend himself after being stepped on for no reason. Right? You. Lin Yi was just about to open his mouth when Tang Yin's heart jumped a little. She thought to herself, I told you to pretend. Just pretend. I'll treat you like this if you pretend again in the future. She smiled apologetically. Sorry, I accidentally stepped on you. Oh, it's nothing. Lin Yi saw that Tang Yin had already admitted her mistake and couldn't say anything else. He smiled bitterly and shook his head. However, after Tang Yin apologized, she didn't move her foot away immediately. Instead, she stepped on him a few more times before moving her foot away. Her eyes flashed with a sly smile as she put down the tofu roll and ran away quickly. Lin Yi was speechless. Tang Yin was doing it on purpose. These girls. Lin Yi didn't know what to say. Did he look like someone who could be bullied so easily? It was Yushu and Mengyao before, but Yushu was smart and had something on him, so he let it go. Mengyao's father was his employer, so Lin Yi couldn't say anything. But Tang Yin was taking the initiative to step on him. Forget it. He couldn't be bothered to argue with her. If this got out, he'd be a laughingstock. The Great Eagle was being bullied by a few women. Boss, Tang Yin seems to have something against you? Did you piss her off? Kong Xiaobo also noticed that something was wrong. Tang Yin seemed to be targeting Lin Yi. How would I know? This is the first time I've seen her. Lin Yi shook his head. Chapter 89. What the hell? She's not the prettiest I've ever seen, but she's definitely one of the best. How could I not have an impression of her? Lin Yi shrugged innocently. That's true. Kong Xiaobo nodded in agreement at Lin Yi's words. Tang Yin's beauty was the kind that people wouldn't easily forget. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many boys who were mesmerized by Tang Yin's beauty after just one look. Whatever, let's eat. I'm hungry. Lin Yi grabbed a tofu roll and stuffed it into his mouth. Not bad, it's pretty good. Haha, of course. Whose mom did this? Kong Xiaobo chuckled in satisfaction at Lin Yi's praise. Lin Yi looked at Kong Xiaobo, not knowing what to say. You sound like I'm your mom? Ahem. Kong Xiaobo coughed awkwardly. Let's eat, let's eat. Here, boss, a toast to you. Kong Xiaobo raised his beer. Lin Yi smiled and raised his beer as well, clinking it with Kong Xiaobo's. It didn't take long for the other dishes that Kong Xiaobo ordered to arrive. Tang Yin, however, seemed to be looking for trouble. She'd either throw the skewers on the table or bump into Lin Yi on purpose. This pretty girl was quite interesting. Lin Yi looked at the angry Tang Yin. He found it funny. She wanted to kick him out. There was a class at night, so Lin Yi and Kong Xiaobo didn't drink much. They finished the bottle in their hands and finished the food on the table. Kong Xiaobo stood up to pay the bill. Andy, how much is it? Yin, go and do the math. Mrs. Tang still had a few more sets of barbecue on the other tables, so she sent Tang Yin to do the math. 80. Tang Yin came to Lin Yi's table and glared at Lin Yi, thinking that he'd be a scammer. Kong Xiaobo blinked. He and Lin Yi ordered at most 40 kwai. How could it be 80? But seeing how confident Tang Yin was, he didn't want to argue with his goddess. He took out 100 kwai bill from his pocket and handed it to Tang Yin. Wait, Lin Yi stopped Kong Xiaobo. I think I got it wrong. I calculated it. 20 mutton skewers is 20 kwai. 2 lamb chops is 8 kwai. 2 chicken necks is 4 kwai. 2 tofu rolls is 2 kwai. 2 bottles of beer is 4 kwai. That's 38 kwai, right? Aye. Tang Yin didn't expect Lin Yi to calculate the bill with her. She blushed and felt uncomfortable. She wasn't a greedy person. The reason why she said 80 kwai was because she was annoyed with Lin Yi's gentlemanly behavior. She wanted to expose him, but Lin Yi didn't say anything. This made Tang Yin even angrier. She thought, since he liked to pretend so much, then go ahead and pretend. I'll charge you a bit more to vent my anger. In the end, Shield Bro questioned Tang Yin when she said 80 kwai. Yin, what's wrong with you? How can you calculate the bill? Although Mrs. Tang was busy with the barbecue, Tang Yin wasn't far from her. She could hear the conversation between Tang Yin and Lin Yi clearly. She was angry when she saw her daughter giving a random price to the customer. She scolded her daughter with a stern face. Tang Yin was already angry because of Lin Yi. Now that she was scolded by her mother, she couldn't hold it anymore. She pursed her lips and raised her head to look at Lin Yi. Her eyes were spitting fire. She wanted to burn Lin Yi to death. I don't want the money anymore. Leave. I'll treat you to this meal. I don't want to see you again. She was on the verge of sobbing. She didn't wait for Lin Yi to say anything before covering her face and running away. She didn't even say goodbye to Mrs. Tang, who was beside her as she ran towards the school. Tang Yin's strong reaction surprised Lin Yi. He didn't expect Tang Yin to have such a strong side. This child. Mrs. Tang didn't know what was wrong with her daughter today. The boy in front of her helped her out. Not only was she not grateful, but she was also angry at him. This put her in a difficult position. She looked at Lin Yi apologetically. Young man, Yin isn't like this usually. She's very sensible. I don't know what's wrong with her today. I'm sorry. I'll treat you to this meal. I won't charge you. You still have to pay, Lin Yi smiled. He felt around his pocket and found 40 kwai in change. He gave it to Mrs. Tang. Here's 40. I'm a little thirsty. Here are 2 bottles of water. Keep the change. Lin Yi didn't wait for Mrs. Tang to reply. He took out 2 bottles of water and gave one to Kong Xiaobo. Let's go? Kong Xiaobo snapped out of his daze. He didn't know what to do as he watched Tang Yin run away. He didn't know what to do until Lin Yi paid for the water. Boss, why are you treating us? Didn't I say I'd pay? Haha, it's the same. You can treat us next time. Lin Yi turned around and walked towards the school. Kong Xiaobo quickly said goodbye to Mrs. Tang and followed Lin Yi. Next time, Mrs. Tang nodded enthusiastically at Kong Xiaobo. Of course, Kong Xiaobo replied. What a sensible child. Mrs. Tang sighed as she watched Lin Yi's back. She didn't know what was wrong with her baby girl. She was afraid that these two wouldn't come again. Boss, what happened today is weird. Xiaobo caught up to Lin Yi, but Tang Yin was nowhere to be seen. She was long gone, evidently long gone. What's weird about it? Lin Yi didn't think too much about it. You, on the other hand, be careful. Don't let Zhou Ruoming cause trouble for you. Ah. With Lin Yi's reminder, Kong Xiaobo remembered that he had offended Zhou Ruoming's group. Boss, don't scare me. I just offended Zhong Pingyang and now Zhou Ruoming. How am I supposed to live here? Don't be too flamboyant. They won't do anything to me if I follow you. Lin Yi said. You're right, but boss, the news of you slapping Zhou Ruoming's probably going to get out pretty soon. You're going to be one of the big 4 soon. Xiaobo said with a chuckle. What's so good about that? Lin Yi glared at him. What happened today was purely because of you. Now I have to bear the name of a big 4. No way, boss. Can you bear to see Tang Yin get bullied? Kong Xiaobo smiled. Chapter 90. Taking out his anger on the test paper. Chapter 90. Venting his anger on the test paper, Xiaobo stuck his head out of the window as he walked past 12th grade class 9, trying to see if Tang Yin was in the classroom. His neck was about to turn into a giraffe when Lin Yi pulled him back. All right, if the homeroom teacher of class 9 sees you, you'll be in for it. Ugh. Kong Xiaobo pulled his head back. I wonder if Tang Yun is back yet? You think you can catch up to her? Lin Yi asked him politely as he looked at Kong Xiaobo. No. Xiaobo, on the other hand, was quite self-aware as he shook his head. Then why are you still looking? What a waste of time. Lin Yi smacked the back of his head. Go back and study. Let's see what you're going to do if you can't get into university. It's not that I can't catch up to her. But do you think it's possible for you, boss? Xiaobo smiled bitterly. I was thinking that maybe Tang Yun would treat you differently after you saved the damsel in distress. Who knew? She'd treat you differently, HM? Kong Xiaobo's words made Lin Yi think of another problem. Did Tang Yun think that he was saving the damsel in distress? Or did she use Zhou Ruoming to put on a show? If that was the case, she might have misunderstood that he was pursuing her like Zhou Ruoming. If that was the case, then Tang Yun's abnormal behavior was understandable. What a girl with a strong sense of self-awareness. A faint smile appeared on Lin Yi's lips. But it was interesting. If it weren't for the fact that he had a mission to attend to, he would have thrown himself into school life and enjoyed the flirtatious, subtle relationships between students of his age. Let's go! Class is about to start, Lin Yi reminded Kong Xiaobo as he quickened his footsteps. The bell for the evening class had already rung. Kong Xiaobo did not dare to stay any longer. He followed Lin Yi into grade 12 Class 5's classroom. Meng Yao and Yu Shu had returned a long time ago, and they were whispering something to each other. Yu Shu glanced at Lin Yi before turning back to her conversation with Meng Yao. What surprised Lin Yi was that Pin Liang wasn't in the classroom. His two underlings, Gao Xiaofu and Zhang Naipeo, were there, but Pin Liang's seat was empty. But it didn't take long for Xiaobo to get some information from someone else. A police car had come to the school and taken Pin Liang away. This result surprised Lin Yi. Could it be because of brother Heibao? If Heibao bro couldn't hold on and bit Pin Liang out, then it meant that the kid was pretty unlucky. The tutoring class at night was also a test. An hour before, the students handed in their test papers, and the committee member in charge of studying would take a stack of papers and hand them out randomly. The teacher would then explain the questions while the students marked each other's papers before summarizing the results. This way, the teacher wouldn't have to mark the papers. In the 12th grade, there were tests almost every day, and this was quite suitable for the fast-paced life. What surprised Lin Yi, however, was that the committee member in charge of studying was Yu Shu. He hadn't expected this girl to be in charge of the class. After the exam, Yu Shu handed out a stack of test papers as she walked up to Lin Yi. She didn't even look at Lin Yi as she tossed him a test paper with a straight face and went off to hand out the others. Yu Shu smiled evilly as she turned around, but quickly put it away. Meng Yao. Lin Yi was speechless as he looked at the name on the test paper. How could there be such a coincidence? Lin Yi was 100% sure that Yu Shu had done it on purpose. Most of the boys in the class dreamed of marking Meng Yao's or Yu Shu's papers one day. It was just a paper, but the fact that it was something they'd worked on meant that there'd still be traces of the two of them left on it. Doing it this way would be a way to get closer to them and satisfy their fantasies. Regrettably, however, Yu Shu and Meng Yao's papers were always swapped. As time went by, Yu Shu would be suspected of using her position to cheat, but no one dared to expose it. This time, however, Yu Shu gave Meng Yao's paper to Lin Yi, leaving her and Lin Yi's papers last. She was planning to give Lin Yi's paper to Meng Yao, creating a coincidence. After handing out the papers, Yu Shu took the two papers back to her seat and put them in front of Meng Yao with a smile. Yao Yao, you pick one. What do you mean? Don't we always mark each other's papers? Meng Yao looked at Yu Shu strangely. Ugh, this time, I accidentally gave out your paper. Yu Shu explained. So, forget it. Meng Yao knew that Yu Shu would make a mistake every time she did this. She might have accidentally given out the wrong paper. Whatever, anyone will do. Meng Yao didn't care since it wasn't her paper. Oh, I'll give you this one then. Yushu tossed Lin Yi's test paper to Meng Yao before sneaking her own test paper to Lin Yi. Linny? Meng Yao looked at the name on the paper and paused for a moment before understanding what was going on. She turned around and saw Yushu, who was pretending to be fine. Shu! Yushu was the one who did it. Meng Yao knew it was Yushu. Ugh, Yao Yao, what's up? Yushu raised her head with a smile, as if she didn't know what was going on. Let me see your paper. Meng Yao looked at the paper Yushu was covering tightly. She wanted to snatch it away. Ah, what's there to look at? Yushu felt guilty as she tightened her grip on the paper. Give it to me. Meng Yao snatched Yushu's paper away forcefully, and Yushu let go, afraid that she'd tear the paper. Meng Yao, on the other hand, glared at Yushu when she realized that it was her own paper. Shu, where did you put my paper? Ugh, I gave it to Shield Bro. He took it away. Yushu thought evilly. Yes, he did. I'm so pissed. Meng Yao was speechless at Yushu's actions, but she was used to Yushu's personality. She knew that Yushu was the type that wanted to see the world in chaos, so she didn't say anything. Chapter 91. Chapter 91. Sensational result. Yushu couldn't help but shiver at the sight of Meng Yao's messed up papers. This was way too much. She couldn't help but chuckle to herself when she thought about the expression on Lin Yi's face when the results were announced. Lin Yi, on the other hand, didn't think that his paper would end up in Meng Yao's hands. He thought that Yushu was just messing around and gave him Meng Yao's paper. Boss, whose paper are you marking? Kong Xiaobo asked casually as he turned his head. Ugh, Meng Yao's. Lin, he said awkwardly. Ah, seriously? Kong Xiaobo's eyes went wide as he stared at the name on Lin Yi's paper. Seriously? How did her paper end up in your hands? Didn't she and Yushu take turns marking papers? How would I know? Yushu sent me this one. Lin Yi said with a shrug. She must have sent it to the wrong person. Kong Xiaobo sighed. Boss, you're really lucky. Meng Yao's paper is one of the things that all the boys in the class want to get close to, but you got it. Lin Yi smiled, not explaining. There really wasn't a way to explain this. He couldn't just tell Xiaobo that Yushu did it on purpose, could he? Kong Xiaobo would definitely ask why Yushu did it on purpose, and his relationship with Meng Yao would be exposed as well. As for Meng Yao's test paper, Lin Yi was very serious about it. Meng Yao was always fierce to him, but Lin Yi knew that most of the time she didn't mean what she said. Especially that night when Yushu invited him to dinner with her, Lin Yi could tell that Meng Yao was a good person at heart. She was just a little spoiled, that's all. Meng Yao's grades weren't bad, but it was inevitable that there would be mistakes on the papers. Lin Yi would write down her mistakes on the back of the paper as he marked them, writing down the correct way to solve them, even more detailed than what the teacher had taught him. What surprised Lin Yi was that Meng Yao had solved the last extra question, and it was the exact same way the teacher had taught her. It seemed that the girl was quite hard-working. However, Lin Yi knew another way to solve the extra question. He didn't know if the teacher hadn't noticed, or if the teacher thought that the basic solution was enough for this extra question. But Lin Yi didn't tell them the shortcut solution. Of course, none of the students objected to it. This extra question was difficult, and it was beyond the scope of the syllabus. There were very few people who could solve it, let alone get it right. Lin Yi wrote down the solution he knew on the back of the paper and flipped the paper to the front. He calculated the score, 139, which was a high score. Usually, the exam questions were harder than the real exam questions, and this was a common practice in these high schools. It was the only way to improve the students' overall ability, and it also made them feel more pressured. After finishing the last extra question, the teacher asked everyone to write down the marker's name at the back of the paper and then pass it to the front. This was to prevent people from grading the paper carelessly. Meng Yao gave Lin Yi a 0 and signed her name at the end of the paper. Even if Lin Yi saw it, he wouldn't dare cause trouble for her. When the marks were being recorded, Yushu looked at Lin Yi's paper and smiled. She then said to the teacher, Lin Yi 0. Huh. Teacher Lu froze. Not only was Teacher Lu stunned, but the other students who were paying attention to the results were also stunned. It had been a few years, and they had never heard of anyone giving a 0. Other than cheating, there was no way someone could give a 0 even if they were blind, right? Who marked the paper? Teacher Lu frowned. Meng Yao, Yushu said with a grin. Teacher Lu nodded. She vaguely knew that Pingzhan, the director of the school, was behind Lin Yi, and Meng Yao was Pingzhan's daughter. These two didn't have much interaction in the school, but who knew where Lin Yi came from? And when he came, he got into a huge conflict with Meng Yao's pursuer, Zhong Pingliang. It was complicated, and Teacher Lu didn't want to interfere. These young masters and princesses were the hardest to manage. So when she heard that it was Meng Yao who marked the paper, Teacher Lu didn't say anything. Yushu's voice wasn't loud, but the class was quiet, so everyone heard her. They couldn't help but look at Lin Yi sympathetically. The boys were thinking that Lin Yi had somehow pissed off Miss Chu and that she gave him a 0. How unlucky! The girls, on the other hand, were a little disdainful. Lin Yi looked like a gentleman, like a pretty boy in an idle drama. They weren't happy that Meng Yao gave Lin Yi a 0, but no one dared to say anything to Meng Yao's face. Lin Yi was the most surprised. When he heard that he got a 0, his expression was indescribably weird. But he could guess that it was Meng Yao who marked his paper, so it wasn't a surprise to have such a miraculous result. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gotten a 0 even if he purposely wrote a few wrong questions. Looking at Yushu's evil smile, Lin Yi was speechless. A 0 was a 0. What was there to be happy about? Kong Xiaobo knew that Lin Yi marked Meng Yao's paper, so when he heard Yushu say that Lin Yi's paper was marked by Meng Yao, he couldn't help but widen his mouth into a 0 shape, just like Lin Yi's score. There was something going on. There must be something going on. How could it be so coincidental? Kong Xiaobo turned his head and looked at Lin Yi with an inquisitive expression. Although Meng Yao gave Lin Yi a 0, it was still more obvious. If there was nothing going on between the two, why would Meng Yao purposely make things difficult for Lin Yi? Looking at Kong Xiaobo's inquisitive gaze, Lin Yi smiled bitterly and spread his hands, indicating that he was innocent. However, Kong Xiaobo was a little puzzled. Lin Yi's expression showed that he was innocent. Besides, although Kong Xiaobo thought that there was something going on between Lin Yi and Meng Yao, now that he thought about it, it wasn't possible. Lin Yi just transferred here a few days ago, and he didn't even talk to Meng Yao. How could there be something going on between the two? Could it be a coincidence? Chapter 92. Chapter 92. Did she cross the line? Meng Yao looked at the nonchalant Lin Yi in the front passenger seat, a little confused. She'd thought that she'd get a scolding from Lin Yi after school, since she'd caused Lin Yi to lose a lot of face in front of the whole class. Meng Yao had vented her anger at Yushu on Lin Yi's test paper, but regretted it when Yushu announced the results. She felt that she'd gone overboard, and was prepared for Lin Yi's scolding on the way home from school. She'd prepared for the worst-case scenario. She'd just apologized to Lin Yi if the worst came to worst. She'd just apologized to him. But Lin Yi hadn't mentioned the results ever since he'd gotten in the car. He didn't even say a word, just sitting there quietly like he always did. Meng Yao couldn't sit still when Lin Yi didn't say anything. Why wasn't he reacting? Was he really angry? Meng Yao felt a little resentful at the thought. She'd even prepared herself to apologize to him, and he was still putting on airs? Hey, how can a man be so stingy? Meng Yao humphed, unable to hold it in any longer. Lin Yi was thinking about when he'd give the medicine to Huaijuan when Meng Yao's words startled him. He turned around, confused. Are you talking to me? Of course. Is there anyone else in the car other than you? Meng Yao said, a little displeased. Ugh. Lin Yi looked at Faubert, sweating profusely. Oh, Faubert, you're really pitiful, getting castrated by the miss for the second time. Ahem. Faubert coughed helplessly as Lin Yi stared at him. Ugh. Meng Yao realized that she'd been being too presumptuous. She'd let Faubert enter the palace once more. Faubert's the driver, so he doesn't count. I'm talking about you. A driver doesn't count as a man? Lin Yi was even more speechless. What kind of theory was this? However, seeing that Faubert didn't say anything, Lin Yi naturally wouldn't say anything. How am I stingy? Are you mad at me for marking your papers today? Meng Yao said as she glared at Lin Yi hatefully at the question he already knew the answer to. Marking papers? What's there to be angry about? Lin Yi was confused. Yushu was the one who gave us the test paper. Yushu, on the other hand, could see that he really didn't know what Meng Yao was talking about. She held back her laughter as she explained. Shield bro, Yao Yao's trying to say that she gave you a 0. Do you hate her for that? Oh. Lin Yi finally understood what Meng Yao was talking about. It's fine, I've already thrown it away. Looking at Lin Yi's nonchalant attitude, Meng Yao was pissed off. She apologized to him out of goodwill. And what kind of attitude was this? She wouldn't have bothered with him if she knew he didn't care. Humph. Even if she gave him a 0, at least it had her signature on it. The other boys in the class were dying to have it, but he threw it away. The atmosphere in the car was a little awkward. Lin Yi didn't usually talk much, but Meng Yao was always chatting away with Yushu the moment they got into the car. Today, however, her face was dark and sullen, as if she wasn't happy at all. Yao Yao, okay, it's my fault today, okay? Don't be angry anymore. Seeing the weird atmosphere between Meng Yao and Lin Yi, Yushu, the culprit, apologized to Meng Yao carefully. She grabbed Meng Yao's arm and swung it back and forth. I'll deal with you tonight. Meng Yao naturally couldn't get angry at Yushu, but she still glared at her. You just want to see the world in chaos. In fact, Lin Yi didn't care about what happened earlier at all. He came to school with the idea of enjoying the high school life. It was all part of his mission, so why would Lin Yi take it seriously? Maybe he would run into the forest again one day, and everything here would just be an interlude in his memory. It would become an eternal memory. After dinner, Meng Yao pulled Yushu upstairs, probably due to the awkwardness of what had happened during the day. Lin Yi didn't hold back, either, and started wolfing down the food in the dining room. General Wei Wu, on the other hand, saw Lin Yi gnawing on the ribs and got jealous. It stuck its tongue out and walked around the dining room. Perhaps its instincts told it that Lin Yi was a dangerous person, so General Wei Wu didn't dare to go near him. However, it was greedy for the ribs in Lin Yi's hands. Before Lin Yi was here, Meng Yao and Yushu's leftover ribs would all go into General Wei Wu's stomach. But since Lin Yi came, it could only eat his high-grade dog food. Although the dog food was high-grade and expensive, it couldn't compare to the delicious ribs. But it wasn't stupid. Dogs, like Rottweilers, had high IQ, and they were more sensitive to the outside world than humans. This was why many places trained large numbers of police and military dogs. Humans couldn't sense it, but dogs could. So General Wei Wu was quite afraid of Lin Yi's murderous aura on the day he came. From its perspective, Lin Yi was a dangerous person. So no matter how jealous it was, General Wei Wu didn't dare to snatch it. Humans were afraid of death, and so were dogs. Lin Yi looked at General Wei Wu, who was walking in circles in front of the dining room. He could guess what General Wei Wu was thinking. He threw a few ribs that he couldn't chew very well to General Wei Wu. Oh. General Wei Wu wanted to cry. Since when did he get treated like this? He could only eat the leftovers of others? How humiliating. But it was better than nothing, right? Plus, Lin Yi was looking at him. If he didn't eat it, he might get beaten up. With that thought, General Wei Wu happily ate the ribs Lin Yi threw to him. It didn't feel so wronged after tasting the aroma of meat that it hadn't tasted for a long time. It was good enough that it was able to eat it. Meng Yao and Yushu went upstairs and took out the test paper they did today. They were ready to reread their mistakes so that they wouldn't make the same mistake in the future. She regretted it when she was in school, so she didn't look at the test paper that Lin marked for her carefully. She only looked at the marks left by Lin when she got home. Meng Yao's heart ached as she looked at the pretty handwriting, listing all of her mistakes on the back of the test paper, along with the solutions. She regretted what she'd done today. She'd messed around with Lin Yi's answers and gave him a 0. But Lin Yi had gone to the trouble of listing all of her mistakes out, even listing out the solutions. She really went overboard. Chapter 93. Chapter 93. Strange Dreams. Yao Yao, what's wrong? Yushu asked, startled as she looked at Meng Yao, who looked like she was about to cry. It's nothing. Meng Yao sighed softly. Shu, do you think I went overboard today? Not at all. Yushu could tell from Meng Yao's voice. Could it be that she was still thinking about what happened today? Yao didn't seem like a sentimental person, did she? Maybe. He doesn't really care. Meng Yao shook her head. Yao. Your test paper? Yushu asked, surprised as she realized that Meng Yao's test paper was filled with the steps to solve the problem. Shield Bro wrote this for you? He's pretty nice to you. It wasn't his duty to help people write out the solutions to the wrong questions when he was marking other people's test papers. Everyone listened to the teacher's instructions on how to solve the questions, and they were supposed to fix it themselves when they got back. But Lin Yi had written out the steps for Meng Yao's problems. Yushu understood why Meng Yao was doing this. Meng Yao didn't say anything as she focused on her mistakes. Yushu turned her attention to her own test paper as well, seeing that Meng Yao was focused on studying. She didn't think that Lin Yi's steps were even more detailed than the teacher's instructions. Meng Yao was a little surprised. Lin Yi seemed to be afraid that she wouldn't be able to understand the problems. Every step was so detailed that he even had annotations. Meng Yao was starting to doubt Lin Yi's identity. Just where did her father find someone like this? She thought that he was a migrant worker when she first saw him. But how could a migrant worker know how to solve 12th grade math problems? Meng Yao was a little surprised when she saw the last question. Hadn't she solved it already? She'd been feeling a little proud when Mr. Liu explained it to her. Everyone in the class hadn't been able to solve it, but she'd solved it. Meng Yao's vanity was satisfied. But when Meng Yao saw the steps, she couldn't help but be stunned. This was a solution she had never seen before, but it was much simpler than her own method. Meng Yao couldn't help but feel touched. She knew that Lin Yi was doing this for her own good, and he wasn't just being perfunctory. Otherwise, he wouldn't have needed to write down this solution. Shu, look at this question, Meng Yao said with a sigh as she pushed her paper towards Yushu. At first, Yushu thought that Meng Yao was asking for her help because she couldn't do the test, but when she saw the problem Meng Yao was pointing at and how Lin Yi had solved it, her jaw dropped. Seriously? Shield Bro is that strong? Not only was he good at fighting, but he was also good at studying. Yao sis, you've earned big. Meng Yao looked at Yushu, confused. Where can I find a guy like this? You have to make the first move, or someone else will beat you to it, Yushu said. Meng Yao pursed her lips in disdain. Him? Who would be interested in him? Yushu smiled mischievously. Many, wait and see if you don't believe me. Lin Yi finished his food and threw the 2 spare ribs to General Wei Wu. Lin Yi wanted to keep them for tomorrow morning, but it was the weekend, and Faubert said that he would take care of all 3 meals. Meng Yao and Yushu would definitely be sleeping in, so there was no need for him to wake up early to make breakfast. Lin Yi went back to his room and laid down on his bed. There were a lot of things to do today, and he had to boil Huaijun's medicine in the afternoon. Lin Yi was really tired, and he didn't want to get up after a day of practice, right? It shouldn't be a big deal if he missed a day of practice, right? Lin, he hesitated. He hadn't slept since coming out of that strange cave, spending every night practicing. The good thing was that he'd be full of energy after practicing, and it felt like he'd slept for 10 hours straight. Lin, he didn't dare slack off when he was at home, with old Lin watching over him no matter how tired he was. But when he was on a mission, Lin, he had to stay alert at all times, and he didn't dare sleep for Rael. He'd never been in a situation like this before. Without old Lin watching over him, and with no danger around him, Lin he decided to slack off. As expected, people became lazy when they were at ease. Lin he sighed. He was really tired today, and Lin he didn't want to practice. All he wanted was a good night's sleep. Lin he felt like he'd entered a space of nothingness, a field of darkness. Lin he became alert immediately. What was this place? Was it a dream? Suddenly, following Lin Yi's thought, the space of nothingness suddenly became as bright as day, and a figure gradually condensed in front of him. Who are you? Lin he asked subconsciously. He hadn't had a dream for many years, and Lin he had gradually forgotten the feeling of a dream. But today, was he dreaming? My surname is Jiao. The figure slowly condensed into the appearance of an old man. He had a sage-like appearance, and he spoke calmly in front of Lin Yi. What? Sexual intercourse? Lin Yi looked at the old man in front of him in shock. How could this person be more vulgar than me? Why did he use this word the moment he opened his mouth? Could it be that he'd watched too many pornographic movies, and his mind had been corrupted? Even in his dreams, he was talking about these filthy things. The old man suddenly felt awkward. My surname is Jiao, and I'm called Jiao Yazi. What? Foot? Lin he was even more shocked. What kind of dream was this? Was it a joke? Jiao Yazi was speechless. This nickname hadn't been used for many years, and he didn't expect this kid to use it. He was a little displeased. It's Jiao Yazi, not Foot. You little kid, don't be rude to this old man. Sorry, Jiao Lao. I heard wrongly. Lin he was a little embarrassed, but he thought, it's just a character in a dream. I don't have to care so much about it, right? Do you think you're dreaming? Jiao Yazi seemed to see through Lin Yi's thoughts, and he sneered and looked at him. Am I not? Lin Yi was stunned, and he looked at Jiao Yazi strangely. Chapter 94. Chapter 94. Training Space Lin, he couldn't help but feel a little awkward at Jiao Yazi's words. If Jiao Yazi said so, then he wasn't dreaming. Besides, a dreamer wouldn't think about whether or not he was dreaming. Then where am I right now? Lin he eliminated the possibility that he was dreaming. Where was he now? Just a second ago he was in Mingyao's bed, and the next second he was in this strange place. This is the fourth dimension of the jade. Jiao Yazi humphed coldly. I really didn't think that there'd be someone as stupid as you in this world. You've made me wait in the jade for so many years, and now you're finally here. What? I'm in the jade? Lin, he wasn't a coward, but after hearing Elder Jiao's words, he couldn't help but reveal a shocked expression on his face. Yes. Jiao Yazi frowned. Was this the fated one? This fated one was a little too weak. Then how did I get in? Lin Yi asked. Jiao Yazi had said that he'd been waiting for Lin Yi in the jade for so many years, and Lin Yi had only just come in. I came in as soon as you went to sleep. Jiao Yazi said faintly. Wah. Lin Yi was stunned. It's that simple. How hard did you think it would be? Jiao Yazi rolled his eyes. But I have nothing to say to you. It's been so many years, and you haven't slept at all. You. Using my senior's words. You're too amazing. Too amazing. Lin Yi was speechless. He'd gotten the jade pendant along with a copy of The Art of Dragon Slaying. He'd been training according to the method in the manual ever since, replacing sleep with training, and it had been a few years in the blink of an eye. I've been training with the art of dragon slaying. Lin, he scratched his head, embarrassed. Of course I know you're training with the art of dragon slaying. I can see it in the jade. Zhao Yazi humphed coldly. But I really admire you. After all these years of useless training, you're still able to keep going. You're even better than Yugong. Ugh. It's not really useless, is it? I've already reached the late stage of the first stage. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. This time, it was Zhao Yazi's turn to be puzzled. He suddenly extended his hand and placed it on Lin Yi's arm. Lin Yi wanted to dodge, but he didn't expect Zhao Yazi's speed to be so much faster than he'd imagined. It was practically teleportation. However, what puzzled Lin Yi was that although Zhao Yazi seemed to have touched him, he didn't feel anything at all. It was as if an illusory figure had touched him. In such a harsh environment outside, you could still break through to the late stage of the first stage? You're quite a talent. Zhao Yazi was a little surprised. Ha! Hearing Zhao Yazi's praise, Lin Yi's face finally revealed a trace of a smile. This Zhao Yazi from the beginning either called him an idiot or mocked him, saying that he was amazing, but in reality it was the opposite. This time he finally praised him. But what a pity. Zhao Yazi shook his head regretfully. Originally, you could have cultivated to this level in a few months, but you used almost 10 years. Talents will also be wasted, wasting the best age for cultivation. Ugh. Lin Yi didn't expect Zhao Yazi's final words to hit him. He was speechless. However, Zhao Yazi's words made Lin Yi a little disappointed. Could it be that I'm destined not to break through? He couldn't help but feel a little sad. You mean I can't break through the first stage and advance to the second stage? Break through the first stage? Your goal is only to break through the first stage? Zhao Yazi was startled. He didn't expect this guy to have such a low requirement. Could it be that I can continue to break through? Lin Yi was also startled. If you entered here 10 years ago and didn't say those big words, I'm guessing that you would have broken through the third stage by now, Zhao Yazi said with a face full of pity. However, with your current age, although it's not difficult to break through the third stage, the older you get, the greater the obstacles will be. Lin, he wanted to cry, but no tears came out. Thinking back, he was really the victim of his own diligence. Originally, after obtaining the Xianyuan dragon beheading skill, he started to cultivate diligently. In the end, it led to the current situation. If he knew this would happen, he would have just taken a nap. Sigh, but don't be discouraged. Although you can't become as powerful as Grand Uncle Master, you can still break through the third stage. That's already impressive enough. Zhao Yazi saw that Lin Yi was disappointed, so he comforted him. Maybe if there's another mutation, you'll become super powerful in an instant. It's hard to say. After hearing Zhao Yazi's words, Lin Yi was a little more open-minded. If he followed Zhao Yazi's words, it was not bad. Thinking of the endless benefits that this Xianyuan dragon beheading skill brought him just to the late stage of the first stage, wouldn't he be even more powerful when he broke through the third stage? Thinking of this, Lin Yi felt that he did not need to be so greedy. You're saying that I have a chance to break through the first stage now. Lin Yi was naturally pleasantly surprised when he thought about it. Of course. Zhao Yazi nodded. The energy contained in this space is a few times or even tens of times that of the outside world. Your cultivation speed here will also be a few times faster than the outside world, especially when it's time to break through. Because of the harsh environment outside, the energy is thin, so it's impossible to provide the huge amount of energy needed to break through in an instant. This is also the main reason why you repeatedly failed to break through. This was the first time Lin Yi heard about energy. Originally, when he cultivated, he did absorb something similar to vital qi from the natural world, but he did not know what it was. Perhaps it was called vital qi in some martial arts novels, but it was what Jiao Yazi referred to as energy. However, I advise you to stop talking about me and you. Hurry up and cultivate. The mechanism of the stone door was personally set up by Marshall Granduncle. Not to mention that I'm just an illusion. Even if I were here in person, I wouldn't be able to force it open. Jiao Yazi glanced at Lin Yi and said faintly, "If you don't want to miss this 5-year period, then stop talking nonsense." Lin Yi was shocked. That's right, the 5-year period was about to end, but he did not expect to unintentionally discover a shocking secret of this jade pendant. Originally, he thought that this jade pendant was just a mysterious item that could predict misfortune. He did not expect that this jade pendant was actually a cultivation space. Moreover, there was a person named Jiao Yazi waiting for him inside. Chapter 95. Just like that. Hold on, one last question. Lin Yi forced himself to ask when he saw Jiao Yazi's impatient expression. Speak. Jiao Yazi replied indifferently. Who are you? Who is that senior uncle of yours? Lin Yi couldn't hold back his curiosity. I'm Jiao Yazi, I've already told you. Elder Jiao said faintly. My grandmaster is naturally a very powerful person, but you don't need to know, because it has nothing to do with you. You don't need to think about becoming his disciple just because you got lucky and picked up the jade pendant and practice scroll he left behind. That's not going to happen. Ugh. Lin Yi paused as he looked at Elder Jiao's "don't even think about it" expression. Elder Jiao had a neutral expression on his face, but it wasn't like this, was it? Did I offend him? However, Lin Yi understood why Jiao Yazi was so upset. Since the person who left the manual was his martial uncle, then if he were to take that person as his master, he would naturally become Elder Jiao Yazi Sr. He would definitely be unhappy. Lin Yi smiled. Of course not. Even if I were to become his disciple, it would be you, Jiao Lao. At least you know what's good for you. Jiao Yazi forced a smile on his face when he heard Lin Yi's words. Since you're so sincere, I'll reluctantly observe you for a while. Huh. Lin Yi smiled. He didn't want to expose Elder Jiao's thoughts, so he didn't say anything else. He sat cross-legged on the ground and entered a meditative state. Since Jiao Yazi didn't want to talk about his senior uncle, there was no need for him to ask. He would say what he needed to say, and there was no point in asking what he shouldn't say. A huge amount of energy rushed into Lin Yi's body from all directions. This sudden phenomenon shocked Lin Yi. Although the absorption of energy in the forest was faster than in the city, it wasn't this fast. It was endless. Lin Yi felt like his body was about to explode, so he slowed down his cultivation. Phew! Lin Yi looked at Elder Jiao, who had a mocking expression on his face, a little helpless. This old man is definitely messing with me on purpose. He didn't even warn me before cultivating. Does he want me to die? Even though Lin Yi slowed down his cultivation, the surrounding energy was still rushing into Lin Yi's body. It was just that the speed was slower. Not long after, Lin Yi felt that the energy in his body had reached its limit. However, the surrounding energy was still rushing into his body at the same speed as before. Cold sweat dripped down Lin Yi's forehead. What's going on? This has never happened before? Although Lin Yi was shocked, he couldn't stop the energy from rushing into his body. At this moment, Lin Yi felt like his body was like a magnet, constantly absorbing the energy from his surroundings. Jiao Yazi. Lin Yi felt like he was about to explode. He had no choice but to ask Jiao Yazi for help. However, Jiao Yazi was still looking at Lin Yi with a playful expression. He didn't have any intention of helping. Boom! Lin Yi felt that his body could no longer withstand the huge energy. His whole body felt like it was about to explode. The clothes on his body turned into charred pieces and flew in all directions. Phew! Just when Lin Yi thought that he was finished, he was surprised to find that he wasn't dead yet. He was standing in front of Zhao Yazi with an indescribable feeling of comfort. Breakthrough? Lin Yi was speechless. He had never broken through before, and he had never felt the feeling of being full of energy when breaking through the critical point. Lin Yi was speechless. He thought that he was going to explode, but in the end he broke through. No wonder Zhao Yazi had a playful expression on his face. It seemed like he had expected this result. As expected, Zhao Yazi opened his mouth and said, "Breakthrough? How is it? Not bad, right? It feels good, but I didn't expect the energy here to be so strong. I broke through directly. That scared me." Lin Yi smiled bitterly. "You are already at the critical point of breaking through. It's just that the environment outside is bad. There isn't enough energy for you to break through in one go." Zhao Yazi laughed and said, "There is enough energy here. Once you enter the state of cultivation, you naturally broke through instantly." After hearing Zhao Yazi's explanation, Lin Yi realized that he had already cultivated to the late stage of the first stage. It was just that he didn't have the conditions to break through, but the energy here was abundant, so he broke through instantly. As for the sudden influx of energy into his body, it would only happen during the moment of breakthrough. It wouldn't happen during normal cultivation. "Thank you, Mr. Zhao." Lin Yi bowed to Zhao Yazi sincerely. No matter what, Lin Yi was very grateful for Zhao Yazi's help. Seeing the serious Lin Yi, Zhao Yazi was a little surprised. After a while he said, "All right, kid, don't be so serious. You can call me Zhao Lao or Old Zhao in the future. Forget about Mr. Zhao. Then I'll call you Zhao Lao." Lin Yi nodded and said, "Zhao Lao, I wonder if I can continue to cultivate the second stage of the Xianyuan dragon slaying art." "Second stage? Do you have it?" Zhao Yazi was stunned and asked, "Ah, you don't have it?" Lin Yi was also stunned and looked at Zhao Yazi in surprise. "If you didn't go through the stone door to take out the second stage, where would I go?" Zhao Yazi was a little speechless. "Isn't this the secret cultivation manual left behind by your martial granduncle? Don't tell me you haven't cultivated it before?" Lin Yi was even more speechless. "Just because it's left behind by my martial granduncle, I have to cultivate it before?" Zhao Yazi rolled his eyes and said, "My cultivation direction is different from this. Only you can cultivate it, I can't." "Ah. Is that so?" Lin Yi scratched his head awkwardly. He was limited by his normal thinking. Zhao Yazi was right. He didn't have to cultivate what his martial granduncle left behind. "If I knew how to, why would I ask you to hurry through the stone door?" Zhao Yazi was a little helpless. "Don't think that I can help you. I'm just an illusion. My function is similar to that of a commentator. I can only explain the use of this cultivation space and entertain you when you're bored. As for the rest, you'll have to rely on yourself." Chapter 96. Accompany us shopping, Elder Jiao. Apart from being a cultivation space, does this jade pendant have any other uses? Lin Yi was thinking about the jade's predictive abilities. Since Zhao Yazi was the owner of the jade, he should know about it. "Yes." Zhao Yazi nodded. "What other uses?" Lin Yi was delighted. So Zhao Yazi knew about it. "But I don't know the specifics." Zhao Yazi shook his head. "Senior granduncle modified it himself. I've never worn it before, so how would I know? Once you open the stone door, there should be an explanation inside, right?" "Should?" Lin Yi asked, uncertain. "I've never been inside the stone door. How would I know?" Zhao Yazi said, as if to say, "Don't ask me, I don't know." "All right." Lin Yi was a little disappointed, but it was only for a moment. It was already good enough that he'd gotten what he'd gotten today. He just hoped that it wasn't a dream. The sky was already bright by the time Lin Yi woke up. It looked like it was 9 in the morning. He'd slept for a really long time. Lin Yi couldn't help but stretch as he sat up on the bed. Wait. Lin Yi suddenly remembered the dream. he'd had last night. It was Zhao Yazi and the training space. Lin Yi touched his body subconsciously. In the dream, his clothes had exploded into pieces when he broke through the first stage of the art of dragon slaying. But when Lin Yi touched his undamaged pajamas, Lin Yi's heart sank. Was it just a dream? Lin Yi couldn't help but feel a little disappointed at the thought. He'd finally broken through, and he'd be able to open the stone door after 5 years. But was it all just a dream? Kid, you're in the Jade, and only your mind is in the virtual training space. Your clothes won't be torn. A voice rang in Lin Yi's mind, startling Lin Yi. But Lin Yi was overjoyed. Zhao Yazi, it was Zhao Yazi's voice. Jiao Lao, is that you? Lin Yi asked. Of course it's me, Zhao Yazi said. You can communicate with me telepathically. No need to speak. Is that okay? Elder Jiao, can you hear me? Lin Yi asked Elder Jiao in his mind. Yes, Zhao Yazi answered. Jiao Lao, since you can communicate with me telepathically, why didn't you remind me to enter the training space in the Jade earlier? Lin Yi asked curiously. Before you entered the training space in the Jade, I couldn't establish a mental connection with you. Jiao Lao snorted. Only after you entered the training space did you establish a mental connection with the training space. Did you think the Jade was still hanging on your body? Isn't it? Lin Yi was shocked. His hand reached for the Jade on his chest, but there was nothing there. The Jade that was hanging on his chest had disappeared. Where's the Jade? Jiao Lao? Elder Jiao couldn't help but feel a little smug at the nervousness in Lin Yi's voice. The Jade has already established a connection with you, and it's already fused into your body. The Jade has completed the process of recognizing its owner, so it won't be taken away easily. Normally, it'll be hidden in your body, but you can summon it with your consciousness. Oh! Lin Yi was stunned. He didn't expect the Jade to recognize its owner. Following Jiao Lao's words, Lin Yi summoned the Jade with his thoughts and made it appear on his chest again. Soon, Lin Yi touched the Jade that he had worn for nearly 10 years. Lin Yi let out a sigh of relief and let the Jade return to his body. This was good. He didn't have to worry about losing the Jade. Previously, when Lin Yi got the Jade, although he didn't flaunt it and the Jade didn't look eye-catching, he was still afraid that it would be stolen. This time, Lin Yi could finally let go of this worry. Thinking that everything last night wasn't a dream, Lin Yi's mood was unusually good, especially when he successfully broke through the first stage of the art of dragon slaying. This made Lin even happier. After getting out of bed, Lin Yi quickly washed up and left the room. He saw that Meng Yao and Yushu were already awake, leaning on the sofa and watching cartoons on TV. Seeing Lin Yi coming out of the room, Meng Yao only glanced at him. Thinking about yesterday's incident, she wanted to say something, but she didn't know what to say. She could only move her eyes to the cartoon. On the other hand, Yushu rolled her eyes when she saw Lin Yi coming out. She waved at Lin Yi. Shield bro, come shopping with me, and Yao Yao later. What do you think? Me. Lin Yi blinked and pointed at himself. Yeah, help us carry our bags. Yushu nodded. Can I not go? Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Carry bags? This job didn't seem that good. Ahem. Toilet paper. Yushu pretended to cough twice and said to Lin Yi sneakily. Ugh. Lin Yi was pissed off. Did this girl make a living out of this? Once a day? Was there an end to this? Shu, why are you coughing? Did you catch a cold? Meng Yao heard Yushu coughing and asked for toilet paper. She quickly passed the tissue box on the coffee table to Yushu. Ah. Yushu blinked, realizing that Meng Yao had misunderstood her. She stuck her tongue out at Meng Yao before pulling out a napkin and pretending to cough a couple of times. Lin Yi was amused. He shook his head and went back to his room to change. No matter what, the only thing he could do before Pingzhan gave him the mission was to stay by Meng Yao's side. Since she was out shopping, he followed her. When Lin Yi came out of his room, Faubert came with breakfast. It was the hotel's chef's congee with pork and century egg and some exquisite pickles. Lin helped Faubert put the breakfast on the table, and Faubert left with the food box from last night. Meng Yao and Yushu turned off the TV and came to the dining room to eat. Meng Yao pursed her lips as she watched Lin leave. She wanted to ask Lin to eat with her, but she couldn't bring herself to do it. "Shield bro, let's eat together. We have to go shopping later. I don't have time to wait for you." Yushu called out to Lin before Meng Yao could say anything. "Hey." Meng Yao was a little annoyed. Why did Shu get to eat first? She wanted to be nice to Lin because of what happened yesterday, but she didn't get the chance to. Never mind, this was fine. She was Lin Yi's employer, and she paid his salary. What right did she have to be nice to him? He should be the one doing it. Chapter 97. Chapter 97. Unconscious Habit. Sure. Lin had just broken through the first stage of the art of dragon slaying, and while he didn't have the second stage's chant to practice, he was still in a good mood. He'd finally gotten rid of a huge rock that had been weighing down on him for years. Yushu took out 3 bowls from the disinfecting cabinet, and Lin quickly filled them up. He looked at the table and decided to sit down with Yushu. Yushu was a little weird, but Lin felt that she was much easier to get along with than Miss Chu. Plus, the two of them had a secret in common, and while it wasn't something they could use against each other, it had improved their relationship a lot. Meng Yao and Yushu were quiet as they ate their porridge, but Lin couldn't care less. He'd learned proper dining etiquette, but Lin couldn't be bothered to follow it at home. Time was precious back in Africa, after all, and there was no time to eat like a gentleman. Even the female members of the squad would finish their food in 2 or 3 bites, or there was no telling where the enemy's rocket launchers would come from. Eating so fast, aren't you afraid of choking to death? Meng Yao curled her lips as she watched Lin walk back to his room after finishing 2 bowls of porridge. She and Yushu hadn't even finished their porridge yet, and they'd only finished half of it. "Guys, eat fast," Yushu said nonchalantly. "My brother eats this fast when he comes home, too." Meng Yao nodded. She knew that there were rules in the platoon, too. What if the enemy showed up on the battlefield? But Lin hadn't been a soldier before, so why was he eating so fast? Lin on the other hand, didn't have the time to listen to the 2 girls commenting on his eating speed. He was thinking about when he'd deliver the medicine to Huaijuan. Lin had wanted to deliver it today, but Yushu had asked him to go shopping with them, so he couldn't go. Forget it. He'd think about it when he had the time. Huaijuan wasn't going to die anytime soon anyway, and he still had the painkiller prescription he'd given him last time. Lin took out the bank card Faubert had given him when he got back to his room. Lin was planning on buying a laptop, and it'd be much easier for him to search for information. A lot of medical stuff could be downloaded from the internet, and Lin wouldn't have to waste time going to the bookstore. Before he left, Lin changed the dressing on his leg, applying a layer of the medicine he'd made yesterday. He didn't have to go to the hospital to change the dressing today. After all, that tough nurse from yesterday was too much for him to handle. His medicine was a lot more effective than the normal medicine the hospital gave him, too. He looked around the room. There wasn't much left for him to bring, so Lin walked out of the room to see Meng Yao and Yushu already dressed up. They were wearing the exact same dresses, and even their hairstyles were similar. They were carrying the same bags, and they looked like sisters. The 2 were dressed more brightly than they usually did in school. There were too many flies in the school, and the 2 had to keep a low profile on purpose. It was the weekend, though, and there wasn't much to say when he went shopping. You're wearing this?" Yushu pointed at Lin Yi's uniform, her mouth agape. She'd seen Lin go back to his room after eating, and she'd thought that he was going to change his clothes. She hadn't expected him to still be wearing his school uniform. What's wrong with it? Lin Yi thought that the uniform was pretty good, and the quality was impeccable. As expected of the best school in the city, even the high-end brands couldn't compare. Do you think what you're wearing suits us? Yushu giggled at Lin Yi's matter-of-fact look. Meng Yao, however, thought of something else. Lin Yi, didn't Faubert give you anything else other than your school uniform? Nope. Lin Yi shook his head. And the clothes I wore when I came. When you came. Meng Yao remembered Lin Yi's look at that time. The white singlet that was starting to turn yellow, and the yellow tattered pants. It was enough to make her faint. Forget it. You can wear this. Get me 2 more decent outfits later. Even if you're my follower, you still need to look presentable. Meng Yao would just buy him 2 outfits later. The one he was wearing now was a little weird, but it was a lot better than his own. Yeah, I'll follow you guys from afar. No one will know that we're together. Lin Yi nodded understandingly. Oh ha ha. Meng Yao's face froze. Who told you to follow them from afar? Going out together means going out together. What was the point of you following them from afar? Meng Yao, however, was a reserved person. She couldn't bring herself to say that out loud. She didn't know why, but ever since this Lin Yi had entered her life, everything that had to do with him would become a mess. Meng Yao couldn't help but feel annoyed. Leaving the villa, Lin Yi didn't see Faubert's Bentley. He was confused when he saw Meng Yao open the garage door with a remote control. There was an Audi S5 parked in the garage. The domestic model was A5, a bit lower profile than the R8. Lin Yi didn't expect Meng Yao to have a car of her own. Lin Yi couldn't tell that Meng Yao knew how to drive, considering how Faubert usually drove. You drive. Meng Yao threw a bunch of keys in Lin Yi's hand. Me. I don't have a license yet. Lin Yi had never driven without a license before, but that was when he was on a mission or when he was killing people. Driving without a license was a small matter. Meng Yao frowned at Lin Yi's words. Get Faubert to get one for you. Wouldn't it be inconvenient to go shopping with us? Haha, Faubert's already doing it. He hasn't gotten it back yet. Lin Yi smiled faintly. Meng Yao had unknowingly accepted the fact that he was by her side, and she wasn't as intense as she was a few days ago when she was trying to chase him away. Now that they were talking about the future, it meant that Meng Yao wasn't as resistant as before. Then you sit in the back seat. I'll drive. Meng Yao pointed at the back seat. Lin Yi said to Lin Yi. The S5 was a sports car with a single row of doors. The back seat could only be accessed from the front. It was a little inconvenient, but with Lin Yi's skills, it wasn't a problem at all. With a light push, Lin Yi jumped in. Chapter 98. Let me do it. What's going on? Meng Yao looked up at the long line of cars in front of her, trying to see what was going on. Shield bro, go take a look and see what's going on. Yushu said casually to Lin Yi. Ugh, I'd rather you go down. Or you'd have to go down first. Lin Yi said with a bitter smile. Yushu remembered that Lin Yi didn't have a door at the back, so she got off the car by herself. There were a lot of people watching, but a pretty girl like Yushu made way for them. It didn't take long for Yushu to run back to Meng Yao. Yao Yao, there's a car accident up ahead. I don't think we'll be able to get there for a while, right? It can't be, right? Let's find a place to park the car and take a walk. Meng Yao said helplessly after hearing Yushu's words. There's a public parking lot over there. Yushu said as she pointed at a parking lot not too far away. Ugh. Shoo, you're a little naughty. You think I can park there? Meng Yao said as she looked at the parking space above the car park. There was a Toyota coaster in front and a Jinbei van in the back. The 2 cars were huge and the parking space in the middle was very small. Normal people wouldn't be able to park there at all. Meng Yao's Audi S5 was a little smaller, but parking there was still a lot of trouble. Parking spaces were scarce in the business district, and it was a weekend, too. How could there be a parking space so easily? It would have been taken a long time ago. Then what do we do? Yushu didn't think too much about it since she wasn't driving. She looked at the parking space. It really wasn't easy to park there. Is that so? Let's park the car on the side of the road then. Meng Yao said as she started the car and parked it on the side of the road. Lin Yi looked at the big no parking sign beside the car before looking at Meng Yao, stunned. It's not like I'll lose points if I get a ticket. Faubert will take care of it. Meng Yao said with a shrug, seeing through Lin Yi's thoughts. Lin Yi sighed to himself. The miss was the miss after all. He thought she was different from the other rich kids, but they all had one thing in common. Money didn't matter. I'll do it, Lin Yi said as he took the keys from Meng Yao's hands, getting into the driver's seat. Hey, what are you doing? You don't have a driver's license, do you? Meng Yao was caught off guard, and Lin Yi grabbed the keys from her. Cars parked illegally will be towed. Lin Yi pointed at the fine print at the bottom. Don't you see what it says? I'm afraid if you stop here, we won't be able to go back. With that, Lin Yi didn't wait for Meng Yao to reply. He started the car and stepped on the gas, speeding towards the public parking lot on the left side of the road. Lin Yi abruptly turned the steering wheel back just as the car was about to reach the parking lot, pulling the handbrake and turning the steering 5 meters and 180 degrees. The car drifted beautifully, neatly into the parking lot. Lin Yi had seen a video on the internet about snatching parking spaces. He thought it was interesting, so he found a broken car to practice it twice. Ah! Meng Yao thought that her car was done for as she watched the car spin on the ground. She was just regretting letting Lin Yi take the keys when she realized that the car was parked properly in the parking spot she'd been waiting for. Drifting. Yao Yao sis, did you see that? It's really drifting. Shield bro knows how to drift? Yushu exclaimed excitedly. Didn't he say he doesn't have a driver's license? He's lying. Meng Yao was a little envious of Lin Yi's drifting skills, but the fact that he didn't have a driver's license pissed her off. What a liar. She'd been his driver for half a day for nothing. He was so good, and he said he didn't know how to drive. Huh. Meng Yao remembered that Lin Yi didn't say he didn't know how to drive, only that he didn't have a license. Lin Yi got out of the car under the shocked gaze of the toll collector. He gave him 5 kwai before locking the car and running over to Meng Yao and Yushu. Done. Lin Yi handed the keys back to Meng Yao. Hey, you didn't damage my tires, did you? Meng Yao mumbled. Huh. Lin Yi smiled. Shield bro, you know how to drift? When are you going to teach me? Yushu was very curious about how Lin Yi had parked the car. We'll talk about it when you get a car. Lin Yi said perfunctorily. Drifting wasn't something that could be taught. He'd learned it after watching the video twice, but that was based on his agility, coordination, and coordination with his body. One wrong move, and the car would be in trouble. Oh, I have a car. It's in my garage. You can teach me when we get back. Yushu said excitedly. Wah. Lin Yi blinked. He didn't expect Yushu to have a car as well. All right, I'll teach you when I'm free. Lin Yi said. Meng Yao found Yushu's begging to be a little shameless. What right did she have to do that? He was just a shield her dad had hired. Did she really have to do this to get him to teach her something? Hey, you have to teach me. My daddy's paying you. Meng Yao said. All right, I'll ask Mr. Chu if I can teach you guys drifting. Lin Yi nodded with a smile. You dash, Meng Yao was pissed. Why did it seem like this guy treated Shu better than him? Meng Yao's heart ached at the thought. She was the miss here, all right? Let's go, Yao Yao. Let's go shopping first. Yushu wasn't in the mood to watch Lin Yi and Meng Yao fight. It wasn't easy for them to go shopping today. Of course, they had to buy more stuff. 12th graders didn't have much time to waste. Even girls with high IQ like Meng Yao and Yushu couldn't be careless. After all, there were quite a lot of people with high IQ. Meng Yao thought about it and agreed. It was rare for them to go out. She was a little bored, but she didn't bother with Lin Yi. She held Yushu's hand and walked forward. Lin Yi chuckled and followed the two. When they reached the scene of the car accident, Lin Yi glanced at it casually and paused. He furrowed his brows, lifted his leg, and walked quickly towards the crowd. Lin Yi wasn't a nosy person, but he couldn't just ignore what happened today. There was a familiar face at the scene of the car accident. It was Wang Xinyan, who he met on the train. She was standing next to a red sports car with a helpless face. She was holding a phone and standing there anxiously. Beside her, there were two middle-aged men and women pointing at her and saying something. Chapter 99. Meeting someone familiar. Mingyao wasn't too happy to see Lin Yi squeezing his way to the scene of the accident. He wasn't a cop, so what did it have to do with him? Shield bros going over. Let's go take a look? Yushu felt that Lin Yi must have something interesting going on. She grabbed Mingyao's hand, wanting to follow Lin Yi. I'm not going. You go by yourself. Mingyao's anger towards Lin Yi hadn't subsided yet, and it was only natural that she wasn't happy to see him meddling in other people's business. Oh, never mind then. We'll go buy some clothes. Yushu looked at Lin Yi longingly as Mingyao dragged her towards the mall. Shield bro won't be able to find us later, right? Don't we have a car? Just wait for us by the car if you can't find us. Mingyao had a reason to be pissed off. There was a pretty girl standing at the scene of the accident, and Mingyao naturally had seen her. Seeing Lin Yi charging at a pretty girl like that was a huge blow to Mingyao's self-esteem. He lived with her every day, and yet he was always thinking about other girls. What kind of person was this? Was her charm level that low? It was Lingshan a few days ago, and now it was this unknown girl. Mingyao's face darkened even further when she saw Lin Yi talking to the pretty girl. It seemed like they knew each other a long time ago. No wonder he was so enthusiastic. Yushu, naturally, didn't know what Mingyao was thinking about. Did she have to be this angry? Could it be that Yao had been having that for the past 2 days? Why else would her temper be so weird? Yushu thought evilly. Yes, it was possible. It was very possible. She needed to get a thorough checkup tonight. Haha. The scene of the accident was surrounded by 3 layers of people, but it wasn't hard for Lin Yi to squeeze his way in. Make way. Unrelated people, please disperse. Lin Yi yelled as he squeezed through the crowd. Those who were squeezed by Lin Yi and wanted to complain shut their mouths subconsciously when they heard Lin Yi's words. They took the initiative to make way for Lin Yi. They regarded Lin Yi as a traffic policeman or a hospital worker who handled the scene. Otherwise, who would say such a thing? Lin Yi squeezed his way in just in time to see the middle-aged woman pointing a finger at Xinyan's nose and yelling, I'm telling you, if anything happens to my dad, you'll be going to jail. Auntie, I told you it wasn't me. Xinyan said, feeling wronged. This is the business district. I'm not even going 30. It was this grandpa who fell in front of my car. I didn't even touch him before I slammed on the brakes. Humph, he fell right in front of your car. Who else could it be but you? I'm telling you, this isn't over. The middle-aged woman glared at Xinyan. Why are the ambulances in Songshan so slow? Do you want to quit your job? Hubby, give their mayor a call. All right, stop arguing. The middle-aged man glared at the woman. What are you arguing about? Dad's mental illness is acting up. It has nothing to do with this girl. Stop making things difficult for her. Huh, she's so pretty that she doesn't even care about her own father? The middle-aged woman didn't care about Xinyan anymore. She pointed a finger at the middle-aged man and started arguing. What? You're so powerful now that you've forgotten how my dad raised you. You're still yelling at me? You're still helping that little bitch? All right. Huiru, are you done? You know what's going on. You're the one who forgot to bring my dad's medicine, and you're pushing the blame onto someone else. The middle-aged man humphed, dissatisfied with his wife. Fine, I've been the daughter-in-law of House Lu for so many years, and this is how you treat me. Huiru's eyes flashed fiercely. She reached out to grab Sinyan's face. You like this bitch? I'll tear her face apart. Let's see if you feel bad for her. Slap! A hand gripped Huiru's wrist tightly. She couldn't move an inch. Who's pulling me? Huiru was startled. She turned around to look at the person. If she really hit someone, she'll take responsibility. Lin Yi looked at Huiru coldly. From her behavior and words, he could tell that this woman's background wasn't ordinary. She did things without a care in the world. Since Sinyan drove a sports car, her family background must be extraordinary. But this woman didn't care at all. It was obvious that she wasn't afraid of causing trouble. Plus, she kept talking about getting the head of the health bureau fired and calling the mayor. That was proof enough. Of course, he couldn't rule out the possibility that she was bluffing, trying to extort more money. Who are you? Honey, look at this pretty boy. He's meddling in other people's business. He even wants to hit your wife. Lu Tianyi, are you going to do something about this? Huiru shouted again. All right, little brother, this has nothing to do with you. Don't get involved. Let go of her. You'll have to bear legal responsibility if you hit someone. Lu Tianyi frowned at Huiru's shouting. He turned to Lin Yi. Hit someone? I'm just stopping her from hitting someone. Lin Yi laughed coldly, but he still let go of Huiru. He wasn't afraid of anyone, but he was on a mission right now. He didn't know how long he'd be in Songshan. He didn't want to cause trouble. Lu Tianyi blushed at Lin Yi's words. He glared at his wife. He didn't know what to do with this wife. When House Lu was in trouble, he married his wife's family, House Zhang. With the Zhang family's help, they managed to protect their family business. But this wife of his relied on what happened back then. She acted like a tyrant in front of him. He didn't have any dignity as a man. But then he remembered that she was his wife and had given him a pair of beautiful and handsome children, so he could only endure it. It was just that he'd gotten older these past few years, and his wife was starting to suspect that he had another woman outside. She'd start crying and throwing a tantrum at the slightest sign of trouble. Tianyi couldn't do anything about it at all. She'd bring up what happened all those years ago whenever he got angry, even going to his father and complaining that she'd had a change of heart. Tianyi couldn't handle it at all. Are you okay? Lin Yi let go of Huiru and turned to Wang Xinyan. Lin Yi came because Wang Xinyan helped him on the train. Even though Lin Yi didn't need her help, Lin Yi still felt grateful. Chapter 100. Saving a life. Xinyan was pleasantly surprised to run into Lin Yi here, but that happiness quickly faded away under the circumstances. She didn't want Lin Yi to get involved because of her. She didn't know the identity of the man and woman, but she could tell that they weren't ordinary people. Xinyan wasn't afraid of them. It wasn't her fault, after all. Even if her father and grandfather found out about it, it wouldn't matter. They'd just give her a scolding and solve the problem. But now that Lin Yi was involved, it'd be troublesome if they went after Lin Yi. Xinyan was just about to say something to Lin Yi when Lin Yi turned away. Lin Yi nodded. No matter what, he'd gotten himself into trouble. He had to think of a way to get Xinyan out of this mess. That Lu Tianyi guy seemed to be a reasonable person, but that Huiru woman was still clinging on to Xinyan. Lin Yi turned to look at the old man on the ground. There weren't any signs of injury on the old man, and there weren't any obvious scratches on Xinyan's car either. Xinyan was right. She hadn't run into the old man, but the old man had fallen to the ground on his own. The old man's right hand was clutching his chest, and he was lying on the ground in a weird position. But Lin Yi could tell the cause of the old man's condition after a couple of looks. It was probably due to a heart condition or something, and it wasn't because of a car crash. It was just a coincidence that Xinyan's car was passing by. Lin Yi crouched down and put a hand on the old man's wrist. What are you doing? Don't move. Are you trying to kill my dad? Huiru had just calmed down for a moment when she saw Lin Yi touch the old man on the ground. She flared up again, baring her fangs and claws as she charged at Lin Yi. Myocardial ischemia? Angina. Lin Yi raised his head with a frown. Huiru, stop fooling around. Lu Tiany's eyes lit up when he heard Lin Yi's words. He pulled his wife aside, and his face was filled with anticipation. He was not stupid. Lin Yi had only taken his pulse and told him the cause of his father's illness. Lu Tiany naturally regarded Lin Yi as a doctor. Little brother, are you a doctor? Lin Yi didn't answer Lu Tiany's question directly. Your father fell to the ground because of angina caused by myocardial ischemia. It wasn't her car that hit him. Nonsense. Hui Ru's expression changed as she pointed at Lin Yi and scolded him. Fine, I'll take it as ting. With the speed of the ambulance, your father can only wait for death. Lin Yi pursed his lips and stood up. Anyway, he's dead. There's a forensic doctor, so it has nothing to do with my friend. Slap. Lu Tiany slapped Hui Ru's face. Shut up, you be tch. If it wasn't for the fact that you were so focused on putting on makeup and forgot to bring Dad's medicine, would Dad have ended up like this? You dare to hit me? Hui Ru's eyes were filled with disbelief. Her husband had been a coward in front of her for most of his life. She didn't expect him to slap her in public today. Lu Tiany ignored his wife and turned to look at Lin Yi sincerely. Little brother, do you have a way to save my father? Yes, you must have a way. My lover is like this. Please don't take it to heart. I hope you can help. Lu Tiany wasn't a reckless man. Lin Yi was young, but being able to pinpoint the cause of his father's illness with a single sentence was no simple feat. His father didn't have any medicine at the moment, and whether or not he could make it to the ambulance was another matter altogether. Lu Tiany had no choice but to try his luck. He wouldn't let that sliver of hope go. Lin Yi looked at Lu Tiany, thinking that the guy was quite sincere. The slap he'd just given his wife was quite manly as well. I'll try. Lin Yi nodded slowly. The old man's death wouldn't have anything to do with Wang Xinyan, but judging from the shrew's attitude, there'd be a lot of trouble in the future. The only way to get Wang Xinyan out of this trouble was to keep the old man alive. Lin Yi crouched down and rubbed a few spots on the old man's body in a seemingly random manner. He then started massaging the area around the old man's hearts. This acupuncture and massage technique was something he'd inherited from his Shifu, and it was good for blood circulation. Lin Yi didn't know if it would work on this old man. Perhaps his Shifu wouldn't have thought that the acupuncture technique he'd taught him was for killing people, but he'd be using it to save people. It'd be great if he had silver needles. His old man's medical skills were amazing, after all, and he'd taught Lin Yi acupuncture, but his main business was killing people, not saving them. He didn't have a box of needles with him. Kid, it's futile if you keep massaging him like this. He's already half dead. He'll die before your massage works. Jiao Yazi's disdainful voice entered Lin Yi's ears all of a sudden. Jiao Lao, you have a solution? Lin Yi was overjoyed. In truth, Lin Yi was a little worried as well. Old Lin's medical skills were excellent, but there were a lot of emergency treatments that required needles, and it depended on the symptom as well. Lin Yi would have been able to save the old man if he'd only just started acting up, but it had been half a day now, and Lin Yi had no choice but to give it a shot. Humph, you've been practicing the art of dragon slaying for nothing, haven't you? Jiao Yazi humphed coldly. You only need to take a small amount of the energy you absorbed and put it into the old man's heart, allowing it to recover and strengthen its blood supply. You'll be able to improve his condition. Put it in directly? Lin Yi was dumbfounded. This was something he'd never thought of. He'd thought that the energy he absorbed was only useful to him because he practiced the art of dragon slaying, and this energy was useless to others. He hasn't practiced the art of dragon slaying, so will this energy be effective on him? Lin Yi knew that this kind of energy had a very significant effect on strengthening the body's tissues and functions. But would it be of any use without the Kunlun chant? He hasn't practiced it, so he can't absorb the energy himself, but he can receive the energy you give him, Jiao Yazi explained. Kid, don't tell me you don't even understand such a simple principle. Lin Yi's face reddened. He really didn't understand this. Old Lin didn't know the art of dragon slaying either, and he'd been practicing it all by himself without anyone to discuss it with. Run the chant on this old man's Dayton acupoint, and the energy will be automatically released and transferred to him, Jiao Yazi said. If you don't want him to die, then hurry up and start. Chapter 101. Cultivation can save lives all this time. Lin Yi had thought that the art of dragon mastery would only improve his own body, but he'd never thought that it could be used on others as well. But since Jiao Yazi had said so, then there was no problem. Lin Yi took a deep breath and pressed his right hand on the old man's Dadan acupoint. He began to practice the basic chant of the art of dragon mastery. All of a sudden, a strong suction came from the old man's Dadan acupoint, and all the energy in Lin Yi's body flowed out like a flood into the old man's body. Lin Yi was startled. Could this be the absorbing stars technique? But it was only for a moment, and the energy in Lin Yi's body stopped decreasing. The energy that had been released from his body was just a drop in the ocean, and it didn't affect Lin Yi at all. He could feel the old man's heartbeat slowly returning to normal, and his face turning pale and rosy. The old man's ragged breathing slowed down as well. That's it? Lin Yi hadn't expected the art of dragon mastery to have such an effect. Lin Yi, kid, you're dreaming, right? This is just recovery. You'll need at least 3 to 4 levels of strength if you want a full recovery. I've studied the first stage of the art of dragon mastery, and it's only good for strengthening the body. It's far from being able to heal wounds. Jiao Lao's voice sounded in Lin Yi's ear. So that's how it is. Lin Yi wasn't surprised or disappointed. If Jiao Yazi had said that the first stage of the art of dragon mastery could bring back the dying, Lin Yi would have been shocked instead. If the first stage was already like this, wouldn't he become a god in the future? Hubby, look at Dad's complexion. He's better, he's really better. His breathing's normal now. Huiru pointed at the old man on the ground, exclaiming excitedly. Humph. Tianyi pushed his wife away, pissed off. She'd been so rude to Lin Yi just a while ago, and now she was acting like this again. It was said that women flipped their faces faster than the pages of a book, and his wife was the perfect example. Little brother, how's my father? There's no problem this time. Lin Yi said faintly, You don't have to go to the hospital. You should wake up soon. Really? Lu Tianyi heaved a sigh of relief when he heard Lin Yi's words and thanked him profusely. If it weren't for Lin Yi, his father's illness would have suddenly flared up this time. Previously, when his father was lying on the ground before the ambulance arrived, Lu Tianyi did not dare to touch him, fearing that something worse would happen. Now that Lin Yi said that his father was fine, he quickly crouched down and helped the old man up. The old man had opened his eyes at this point, breathing heavily as he spoke to Lu Tianyi weakly. Help me up, Dad, let me help you. Huiru walked over obediently, reaching out to help the old man up. However, the old man snorted coldly and shook off Huiru's hand. The old man had fallen to the ground in pain, but he hadn't fainted. He could still hear what was going on in the outside world, and the way Huiru had slandered Wang Xinyan had irritated him greatly. Dad, Huiru wanted to say something, but Lu Tianyi stopped her with a glare. Dad, what are you doing? Lu Tianyi asked as he helped his father up. His father was walking towards Lin Yi. Help me to thank this little friend. The old man knew very well who had saved him. Lin Yi had a good impression of the old man after seeing how sincere he was. As for the old man calling him a little friend, Lin Yi naturally didn't mind. The old man was about the same age as Lin Yi after all. It was normal for him to call him a little friend. No need to be so courteous, old man. I was just passing by. Lin Yi smiled. Good, good. The old man's complexion had recovered quite a bit. The pain was only temporary, and he'd be back to normal once he recovered. You saved this old man's life, but you're not arrogant or rash. Good. Tianyi, remember this little friend's phone number. You must thank him for today. Yes, Dad. Lu Tianyi turned to look at Lin Yi. Lin Yi had heard his father's words as well, so Lu Tianyi didn't have to repeat them. There's no need to thank me. I just want my friend to leave. Lin Yi said faintly. Lin Yi didn't really care about that. Lin Yi was a young man with a high salary now, and he didn't lack money. The main reason he'd helped was to get Xinyan out of trouble. Lu Tianyi's face reddened at Lin Yi's words. He glared at Huiru again before turning to Lin Yi. Little brother, I'm really sorry, but don't lower yourself to a woman's level. This has nothing to do with your friend. She can leave any time she wants. Huh? Lin Yi smiled. Old man, there's no need for that. I'll be leaving if there's nothing else. Take care of yourself. Good job, young man. The old man, on the other hand, looked at Lin Yi with admiration. Just looking at your little girlfriend's car. This old man knows that you're not someone who needs money. How about this? I'll cut to the chase. Tianyi, give this kid my private number. Young man, give me a call when you get the chance to visit Yanjing. I'll take care of you myself. All right. Lin Yi nodded and didn't decline anymore. Since it was the old man's sincerity, Lin Yi naturally wouldn't reject it. As for going to Yanjing, he'd been there before, but would he have the time to play? But the old man's words shocked Lu Tianyi. When had his father ever been so approachable, especially to an unfamiliar junior? Even if he'd saved his father's life, there was no need for him to do this, was there? However, since his father had asked him to do this, he didn't raise any objections. He took out his business card and quickly wrote his father's number in the blank space behind it before handing it to Lin Yi. Lin Yi took the business card and stuffed it into his pocket without looking at it. The old man wasn't dissatisfied, but Lu Tianyi secretly shook his head. How many people wanted his father's number but couldn't get it? At this time, the sound of an ambulance finally came from afar. Actually, it had only been 20 minutes since the incident had happened. The ambulance had driven from the hospital to the downtown area, which was considered fast. Dad, the ambulance is here. Let's go to the hospital for a checkup. Lu Tianyi had also heard the sound of the ambulance and carefully said to the old man, Chapter 102. Lu Tianyi had no choice but to give up after hearing his father's words. The crowd, on the other hand, saw that there was nothing left to see and began to disperse as they talked about Lin Yi's miracle. Lin Yi, on the other hand, quickly left the place with the crowd. Wait! Xinyan's voice came from behind him before he could take more than a few steps. Ah, what's wrong? Lin Yi looked at Xinyan before pointing at the car not far behind her. You're not allowed to park here. Aren't you afraid of getting a ticket? Ah. Xinyan blinked, not expecting Lin Yi to say something like that. She chuckled. Thanks for today. I didn't expect you to know medicine. It's just a normal Eastern massage. You can do it too if you buy a book from Xinhua bookstore. Lin Yi naturally wasn't going to expose himself. Ugh. Xinyan wasn't expecting it to be that easy, but thinking back to what Lin Yi had done, it really did look like an Eastern massage. She nodded. Still, thank you for today, though. It would have been really hard to get away otherwise. That woman was being unreasonable, that's all. Lin Yi smiled. I didn't think I'd run into you here. I haven't thanked you for last time, so let's call it even now. Call it even. Xinyan frowned. She'd finally mustered up the courage to invite Lin Yi for a meal to thank him. But Lin Yi had already put it that way. She wasn't going to bring it up as a girl. Be careful next time, and try not to go to crowded places. Lin nodded. I came with a friend today. I'll head over first. Ah, all right. Xinyan nodded, a little disappointed. She didn't have her family with her today, so she didn't have to worry about anything. Lin just had to have something to do. It was a little disappointing. Xinyan was very curious about Lin. She couldn't figure out what had happened on the train. She'd been thinking about it for a few days, but she still couldn't figure out when Lin had gotten the money back. He'd been sitting beside her the whole time, and she should have been able to sense anything if he'd made a move, but she hadn't been able to sense anything. What happened today made Lin even more of a miracle. He was a young man who knew Eastern massage, and seemed to be quite good at it, too. That grandpa wouldn't have recovered otherwise. What a strange person. Xinyan sighed as she watched Lin leave. She turned around and walked back to her car. If he hadn't come out with Meng Yao and Yushu, he really would have wanted to spend more time with Xinyan. But the situation was different. Wouldn't the Chu girl explode if she saw him shopping with another pretty girl? He was here to carry her bags, after all. Lin knew his place. Where are you guys? Lin took out his phone and sent Yushu a text. It wasn't long before a reply came. Pingzhan Department Store, 3rd floor, *** area. Ugh. Lin sweated as he looked at the text. *** area. But wasn't this Pingzhan Department Store part of Pingzhan's business? The miss was visiting incognito. Lin shook his head as he looked left and right. It wasn't long before he found the Pingzhan Department Store sign. He walked over quickly. The department store was quite sizable, and there were quite a number of brands inside. Some were international, some were domestic, but they were all high-end brands. There weren't even many mid-range brands. Lin took the elevator up to the 3rd floor. It was a good thing that the 3rd floor wasn't just selling sex toys. There were also bedding and the like. Lin sent Yushu a text telling her that he'd arrived. He waited for a while, but Yushu didn't reply. Lin didn't think much of it. He thought that she was trying out her *** when someone called out. Shield bro, over here. Lin raised his head, subconsciously, to see Yushu waving at him from afar. But what was that in her hand? It looked like a *** black ***. Lin sweated. Only a weirdo like Yushu could do something like that, right? Lin walked towards Yushu under everyone's shocked gazes. Lin was too shameless to care about stuff like that. He'd even put on a trap for his mission back in the day. Lin wasn't afraid of anything. Yushu was a little embarrassed to see Lin walk over like that. But she quickly put away the *** she just bought when she saw the weird looks everyone was giving her. Even Meng Yao moved to the side as if she didn't know Lin. Yushu was embarrassed. She didn't think too much about it. It was just a joke with Lin. But she didn't think it'd cause such a huge reaction. Shu, you're so embarrassing. Meng Yao's face darkened as she glared at Yushu. How could you do that? Yao Yao. I didn't know everyone would be looking at us. Yushu said, feeling wronged as well. Fortunately, the people here weren't just there to watch the commotion. They only looked at Yushu for a while before going back to their own business. Lin walked over to Yushu, her face still red. Lin found it a little funny. Are you guys done? Do you need me to carry anything? We're not even there yet. It's still early. Meng Yao thought back to how Lin had gone to help a pretty girl deal with a car accident for no reason. She got a little pissed. Hold these *** for me. Wah. Lin froze. Holding the ****. Lin was a thick-skinned guy, but holding a *** behind two pretty girls like that wasn't a pretty sight, was it? However, Lin let out a sigh of relief when Meng Yao handed the bag over. Other than the *** brand, there wasn't anything special about it. Where's yours? Lin turned to Yushu after taking Meng Yao's bag. Here. Yushu had already put the *** into the bag and passed it to Lin. And so, Shield Bro followed the two girls from afar. When the two returned, Lin he had more than 10 bags in his hands. Meng Yao suddenly remembered something. Lin yi, you haven't bought any clothes yet. Me? Isn't this good? Lin, he didn't really care. It's fine if you don't buy it. I have to. I have to. People will think that Shu and I are students if you wear a school uniform, Meng Yao said firmly. Chapter 103. Fried mushrooms and gutter oil. Meng Yao's eyes lit up at the sight of Lin walking out of the fitting room. Her impression of Lin had changed quite a while ago, and Lin looked a lot more handsome in his school uniform than when he was a laborer. However, Lin looked even more handsome in his casual clothes. Humph! She hadn't expected this guy to be this handsome. No wonder he was so popular with girls. Even Ling Shan was trying to get close to him. She shouldn't have asked him to buy it if she'd known. Meng Yao thought, a little conflicted. Wow. Yao, look at how handsome Shield Bro is. He's more than enough to be your Shield Bro. I guarantee it. Yushu was quite surprised at Lin Yi's change as well. It seemed that clothes made the man and bark made the tree. How about it? Lin Yi picked out 2 casual outfits. He didn't think it'd look right for him to follow the 2 misses in a suit. He'd look like a hired thug if he were to wear one. So ugly. Meng Yao said with a yawn as she looked at Lin Yi with sleepy eyes. Huh. Lin Yi smiled as he looked at Yushu. What do you think? Yushu looked at Meng Yao, a little troubled. She felt a little guilty, all of a sudden. I guess. All right then. Lin Yi said as he took out the card Faubert gave him. I'll do it. I told you I'd buy it for you, Meng Yao said, getting up from her chair and going to the counter. Lin Yi shrugged. There was no need to fight Meng Yao if she insisted. This wasn't the time to be a gentleman after all. The money in his card was from Pengzhan, and the money in Meng Yao's card was from Pengzhan. The two were essentially the same, and it didn't matter whose card he swiped. We're done. Is there anything else you want? Meng Yao asked Lin Yi after swiping her card. I'd like to get a laptop, Lin Yi said after some thought. Oh, a laptop. Shoo, I thought you didn't have a laptop in your house anymore. Why don't you get Lin Yi to use it? Meng Yao was a little tired. There weren't any laptops in the mall, and they'd have to walk quite a distance to get one. Sure, Yushu didn't really care. Computers were the type of thing that got replaced pretty quickly anyway. She was staying at Meng Yao's house for the time being, and she'd probably get a new one when she moved back home. She might as well give the computer to Lin Yi for now. Lin Yi didn't have any objections, since both Meng Yao and Yushu said so. The 3 left the mall together, and Lin Yi looked at the long line of cars in front of the parking lot. Meng Yao wasn't a bad person. She wasn't afraid of getting a ticket, but with her status, all she had to do was call Faubert in advance. Even if the manager of the mall didn't want to park, he'd have to give her a parking spot. Meng Yao looked at the parking lot and gave the keys to Lin Yi. You're in charge of getting the car here. Lin Yi smiled bitterly as he took the keys. Neither of the cars had left, and Meng Yao wouldn't be able to move the car out of the parking lot. But it wasn't a problem for Lin Yi. He got in the car with the keys, and after a couple of shifts, the car was out. Lin Yi got out of the car and sat in the back seat. Meng Yao was a little pissed. You want me to be your driver? But I really don't have a license, Lin Yi said helplessly. What if I get detained for 15 days? Ow. Meng Yao was speechless. Who'd dare detain you if you and Ling Shan had that kind of relationship? She didn't say anything, though. She got into the driver's seat and started the car. Yao, are we still going for fried mushrooms today? There was a food street not too far away from the business street, and there were a lot of food stalls there at night. The 2 of them had gone there the last time they went shopping, and Yushu couldn't help but drool at a fried mushroom stall every time she thought about it. Meng Yao was just about to say sure when she remembered Lin Yi in the back seat. She turned around. Hey, are you coming or not? I'll leave you at home if you're not. Of course, it's just eating, right? I'm good at it. Lin Yi nodded seriously. Ah. Meng Yao didn't know what to say. There were all sorts of things in this world, but she'd never seen anyone boast about being an expert in eating like this. Meng Yao wanted to ask if this guy was good at taking a shit as well, other than eating. But that wasn't a pretty word, and Meng Yao didn't say it out loud since she was a girl. Huh, Shield Bro, we're really kindred spirits. I'm good at it too, Yushu said excitedly as if it was fate. Meng Yao didn't know what to say. How embarrassing. It was too embarrassing. I like fried mushrooms. What about you? Yushu didn't see the look on Meng Yao's face as she chatted excitedly with Lin Yi. I like fried chicken, Lin Yi said. Ahem. Meng Yao couldn't take it anymore. Haven't you guys heard of gutter oil? Yeah, Yao Yao, but what does gutter oil have to do with fried mushrooms? Yushu asked, dumbfounded. Ugh. Meng Yao floored the gas pedal, and the S5 shot out. This was the only way she could vent her frustration. She was completely defeated. Lin Yi was a little puzzled. Yushu didn't seem like such an idiot, did she? Why didn't she know the connection between gutter oil and fried mushrooms? But Lin Yi understood that the girl was doing it on purpose when he saw that faint smile on her lips. There wasn't a parking spot on the street, and there were quite a few cars parked there as well. Meng Yao frowned. Finding a parking spot was the most annoying thing to her every time she went out. The number of private cars in Songshan had been increasing at an alarming rate for the past 2 years, and what depressed Meng Yao the most was the sudden increase in the number of private cars after she got her license. Stop, Meng Yao said to Lin Yi after getting out of the car. I'll go eat with Shu. You buy whatever you want, don't worry about us. Chapter 104. Meeting Tang Yuan again. Lin Yi leaned against the Audi S5 as he got out of the car, enjoying the bustling scene of the food street. How long has it been since I've enjoyed a life like this? Lin Yi sighed at the comfort he had right now. In the past, there was only work and work. Even when he passed by a food street like this, it was mainly to fill his stomach. How could he have the leisure to enjoy the scenery? Phew! The air here was mixed with the smell of cooking oil from the food stalls, as well as the smell of rotten vegetables. It wasn't as fresh as the air in the mountains, but the smell of the market made Lin Yi yearn for it. When would the day come when he could also be like these ordinary people, shopping and eating snacks? How comfortable would his life be? Lin Yi stretched and opened his eyes. Ugh. Lin Yi realized, to his surprise, that there was a mother and daughter walking in his direction. They were pushing a tricycle with a barbecue rack and some chairs and tables on it. Who else could it be if not Tang Yin and her mother? Tang Yin obviously saw Lin Yi as well, but a trace of disdain flashed in her eyes. She turned her head away, not looking at him. Tang Yin's mother, on the other hand, didn't see Lin Yi as she continued talking to Tang Yin. It was only then that Lin Yi realized that his posture was a little suggestive. He was leaning against the Audi S5, facing Tang Yin's direction. The luxurious sports car, the elegant yet lazy posture. It really did look like one of those rich young masters trying to act cool in front of a poor girl. But Lin Yi was innocent. Lin Yi really didn't have the intention to show off in front of Tang Yin. He was just sighing about life by the side of the car. And coincidentally, Tang Yin saw him. Lin Yi rubbed his chin awkwardly as he left the car. Tang Yin and her mother had pushed the barbecue cart over. Lin Yi thought that he should at least greet her since he saw her, right? Hello, Auntie. Lin Yi scratched his head, a little embarrassed as he greeted Mrs. Tang. She was an elder, after all, and he couldn't just turn around and leave now that he'd seen her. Ah, you're... Mrs. Tang paused as she looked at Lin Yi. He was wearing the casual clothes he'd just bought, and he was standing next to the sports car. Mrs. Tang didn't recognize him right away. "It's me, Lin Yi. I ate at your barbecue stall with my classmates yesterday." Lin Yi explained. "Oh, it's you. I remember now." Mrs. Tang looked at Lin Yi, a little surprised. She knew that Lin Yi was strong in school yesterday, one of the big four. Even Zhou Ruoming was afraid of him. But it wasn't until today that she realized that Lin Yi's family wasn't normal. She didn't know how much the car was worth, but it didn't look cheap. Plus, Lin Yi was dressed casually today, much more handsome than yesterday. Mrs. Tang had a good impression of him. "Ian, why didn't you greet your classmate?" "Humph." Tang Yun felt wronged by her mother's words. She raised her head and looked at Lin Yi. Why was this person so thick-skinned? She didn't know where he found out that she and her mother were going to have a stall at the food street on the weekend. But he came here early to wait for her. "What are you doing here?" "Ugh, I'm here to eat." Lin Yi smiled bitterly as he looked at Tang Yin. "Yin, how can you talk to your classmate like that?" Mrs. Tang wasn't happy with her daughter's attitude. Not only did Lin Yi help Tang Yin out yesterday, he even helped her recoup her losses. From now on, she would be able to set up a stall near the school, and it seemed like she wouldn't be bullied by the students anymore. Mrs. Tang was very grateful towards Lin Yi, but seeing that her daughter wasn't getting along with Lin Yi made her a little angry. He's here to eat. What else could he be doing? Tang Yin felt wronged by her mother's scolding. She glared at Lin Yi and stubbornly turned around, ignoring Lin Yi. "This child, Mr. Lin, please don't take it to heart." Mrs. Tang explained to Lin Yi, embarrassed. Now that Lin Yi's identity had changed, Mrs. Tang's way of addressing Lin Yi had also changed. "It's okay, Annie, just call me Lin." Lin Yi sweated. He didn't think that Tang Yin would have such a personality. He hoped that she could maintain her personality. It wasn't easy for a girl born in a family like this to maintain a little bit of pride and self-esteem. This made Lin Yi have a good impression of Tang Yin. Mrs. Tang was clearly helpless towards her daughter. After saying a few words to Lin Yi, she pushed the cart with Tang Yun into the food street. Lin Yi shook his head and followed from afar. He didn't get too close in case Tang Yun accused him of following her. Lin Yi bought 2 skewers of fried chicken and stuffed them into his mouth. This was an authentic street food that Lin Yi rarely had the chance to eat. He'd already forgotten how long it had been since he'd last eaten fried chicken. Lin Yi watched as Mrs. Tang and Mrs. Tang set up a stall and started a fire. He didn't want to go over to them. Mrs. Tang's barbecue skills were pretty good, but Lin Yi didn't want to get glared at by Tang Yin. While they weren't paying attention, Lin Yi quickly made his way over and saw Meng Yao and Yushu at the end of the street. The two were sitting in front of a Shangxi liangpi stall, eating a bowl of liangpi together. The bowl was red. Evidently, a lot of chili had been put into it. Meng Yao took 2 bites, sticking her tongue out and fanning herself with her hand. It looked like she couldn't handle the spiciness. Yushu, on the other hand, was eating and drinking at the same time. Lin Yi calmed down after seeing that they were fine. He didn't want them to be embarrassed to eat again. They didn't know anyone here, so they were quite relaxed. Their table manners were a lot more aggressive than when they were at home. "Boss, give me a bowl of wonton noodles." Lin Yi called out as he sat in front of a Zhang Ji wonton noodle stall, not too far away. "Sure, bro." The boss responded with a smile when he saw a customer and went to make the wonton for Lin Yi. Lin Yi felt that none of the other street food could fill him up as much as this wonton noodle. After a few random snacks, Lin Yi decided to have a bowl of wonton noodles. Lin Yi's eyes followed Meng Yao and Yushu from the corner of his eyes as he ate the wonton noodles. The two came to a stall selling fried mushrooms. Yushu seemed to want to eat it, but Meng Yao didn't want to. The two argued for a bit, and Meng Yao eventually sat down with Yushu. Chapter 105. The master of haggling. There was a night market in front of the food street. It was a night market, but there were still a lot of stalls set up during the day. It was just as lively as the food street here. Lin Yi didn't have much to do, and Meng Yao and Yushu were enjoying their food. He walked over to the night market. Lin Yi preferred the clothes from the street stalls compared to the expensive branded clothes from the malls. As long as one had good eyes and knew how to haggle, they could buy fashionable clothes from the street stalls. Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry at the familiar silhouette in front of him. It seemed like fate had brought them together. Lin Yi walked over to Tang Yin, who was squatting in front of a stall selling girls' clothes. She was holding a dress in her hands, looking like she really liked it. Can you lower the price a little? Tang Yin asked after some hesitation. Little girl, look, these are all top-notch fabrics. Look at the workmanship, there's nothing to say. This style is also the most popular this year. If you put it in Pingzhan department store, you won't be able to get it for less than 1,000. The stall owner talked leisurely as if his goods were the best in the world. It was obvious that Tang Yin wasn't good at haggling. But 200 is a little too expensive. It's not expensive. Look at the prices of everything these days. The fabric, the labor, it's more than 200. 200 is the price I used to pay before, and now that the price has gone up, I'll have to raise the price in the future. The stall owner continued praising his goods. I'm from the food street over there. Can you lower it a little? I'll buy it a little cheaper. Tang Yin gritted her teeth as she revealed her identity. Oh, you're from the food street? The stall owner looked at Tang Yin. You're from the food street over there, so you should know better. I'm making a small profit, but quick turnover. How much can we earn from selling things in the night market? There's so many stalls here. Who's going to raise the price for who? Plus, we have to pay taxes and management fees every day. There's not much left. Tang Yin looked at the stall owner weakly. She'd already said that. So why didn't he say anything cheap? Could it be that he saw that I liked this dress, so he didn't give in? This person was really hateful. Lin Yi shook his head. With Tang Yin's way of haggling, it would be strange if she could kill them. Perhaps he would have to help her out. Tang Yin's family situation wasn't very good, and he could tell that. It would be best if he could save some money for her. Hey bro, you're setting up a stall here? Lin Yi walked over and patted the stall owner's shoulder enthusiastically. You are. The stall owner looked at Lin Yi in confusion. He didn't know who Lin Yi was. Have you forgotten about me? The first year we were selling goods together at old Zhang's place. Lin Yi said with a smile, I used to set up a stall at the night market on the south side of the bridge. Oh. The stall owner listened to Lin Yi's words and nodded in realization. So it's you, little bro. I was wondering why you looked so familiar. How is it? How's business recently? Hey, don't mention it. Your sister-in-law is pregnant. I'm taking care of her at home. I don't have time to set up a stall. It wasn't easy for my sister to come over these past 2 days. So I took some time out to walk around. Lin Yi said as he squatted down in front of the stall. Tang Yin looked at Lin Yi chatting with the stall owner. Stunned. When did he set up a stall at the south side of the bridge? When did he get a wife? She's pregnant. Wasn't he in school? Hey, pregnancy is a good thing. Congratulations. The stall owner nodded at Lin Yi and congratulated him. In fact, he didn't even remember where he'd seen Lin Yi before. Who knew which old Zhang was? He had so many places to sell goods. There were at least 3 to 5 people with the surname Zhang. However, Lin Yi was so familiar with him, and they were in the same trade. It was obvious that they'd met before. He didn't remember him. The stall owner was a bit embarrassed, but he couldn't say it out loud. He could only pretend to suddenly remember and chat with Lin Yi. Hey, don't mention it. My wife loves to look pretty. She even wants me to buy things for her when she's pregnant. Lin Yi said she wants me to buy some makeup and clothes for the summer. I was going to old Zhang's place. But I bumped into you. I'll just pick 2 from your stall. No problem, the stall owner said enthusiastically. You still have a long way to go to the wholesale market. Just pick 2 from here. We can't take your money. We all know how much these things cost. Okay, then I'll pick 2. Lin Yi said as he picked up the dress Tang Yin was looking at, and then picked a pair of men's shorts to wear. After choosing, he said to the stall owner, I'll take these too. Oh, the stall owner looked at it and said, that dress is 45 yuan, that pair of shorts is 12 yuan, a total of 57 yuan. I'll give you 60 yuan. I still have the fare to go to the wholesale market. I can't let you come for free. Lin Yi took out 60 yuan from his pocket and handed it to the stall owner. How can I do that? We're in the same trade. The stall owner waved his hand. It's a small business, sister-in-law is pregnant. It's embarrassing enough that I didn't give her a gift. How can I make money? Haha, bro, if you do that, I won't dare to come next time. 60 it is. Is that okay? Lin Yi waved his hand, pretending to be angry. Okay, 60 it is. The stall owner smiled and took the money. Bro, you're honest. I won't say anything else. Next time you come, let's have a drink or 2. No problem. Lin Yi nodded and stood up. Bro, I'll be leaving first. Tang Yun watched as Lin Yi bought her favorite dress. She was shocked speechless. 45 yuan? What was wrong with him? This stall owner was too greedy, wasn't he? He sold it to her for 200 yuan. She could buy 4 pieces. Tang Yin thought angrily. Right, what did you want to buy? The stall owner sent Lin Yi away with a smile, then remembered that there was a buyer here, so he asked, that dress just now, do you still have it? Tang Yin asked. No, that's the only one. The stall owner shook his head. Then why did you sell it to him for 45 and me for 200? Tang Yin couldn't help but ask. This stall owner was too dishonest. He's in the same trade. I'm willing to sell it to him for 45. What's wrong, can I? The stall owner saw that Tang Yin was dawdling for a long time. He was getting impatient. If it wasn't for the fact that she was pretty, he would have ignored her already. Him? He's in the same trade as you? Tang Yin looked at the stall owner strangely. Yes, why? Are you buying it or not? The stall owner frowned, wondering why this little girl was so troublesome. She didn't want to buy anything, yet she kept asking questions here and there. It would be a misunderstanding when his wife came back later. Chapter 106. Who said anything about giving it to you? Lin Yi's sudden action had left Tang Yin dumbfounded. Had Lin Yi set up a street stall before? He'd been driving a sports car when she saw him, hadn't he? Why would he set up a stall? Plus, he was a high schooler just like her. How could a student get married? His wife was pregnant. Tang Yin rubbed her eyes. Was it because she'd been too tired these past 2 days, and this Lin Yi was too much of a jerk that she was hallucinating? How else could she have bumped into Lin Yi in a place like this? But no matter what, it didn't matter if that person was Lin Yi or not. Tang Yin still felt that he was a jerk. She'd set her eyes on the dress first, but he'd bought it before she could discuss the price. Damn it! Tang Yin lowered her head and walked towards the food street. She'd finally made up her mind to buy 2 new sets of clothes, but Tang Yin took 2 steps and almost bumped into someone in front of her. She jumped back subconsciously and looked up to see Lin Yi standing in front of her with a smile on his face. What are you doing here? Trying to scare me? Here's the dress. Lin Yi handed the dress to Tang Yin. You're not buying it for your wife? Tang Yin frowned, not understanding what Lin Yi was getting at. Haha, it's just a way to haggle. I don't have a wife. I'm just trying to get the price out of him. Lin Yi shrugged. You don't know how to haggle, and I'm afraid that someone's going to rip you off. Oh, Tang Yin finally understood why Lin Yi was talking like that. It was just a haggle. So his intention in buying this dress is to give it to me? Tang Yin grew more and more annoyed at the thought of that possibility. Of course, she wouldn't accept the dress Lin Yi had given her. If she'd wanted it, she'd only need to open her mouth and there'd be a lot of boys fighting over it. But she didn't like it. Here, take it. Lin Yi gave the dress to Tang Yin. I don't want your things. You can go back. Tang Yin dodged and said coldly, Who said I'm giving it to you? Give me the money. Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. 45. Tang Yin froze. She didn't expect Lin Yi to ask her for money all of a sudden. Didn't he want to please her and buy it for her? Why is he still asking me for money? Was he just toying with him? Tang Yin's heart ached at the thought. She wanted to leave and ignore Lin Yi, but she hesitated. This dress was something she really liked. She had the urge to buy it when the guy said that it wasn't a penny cheaper. Tang Yin had the urge to buy it. Although this dress was given to her by Lin Yi, she bought it with her own money. It shouldn't have anything to do with him. Yes, she bought it with her own money. What did it have to do with him? With that thought, she took out her wallet from her pocket. There was only around 200 kwai in there, which was her monthly allowance. Tang Yin took out a 50 yuan bill and gave it to Lin Yi. Here. Lin Yi took the money without saying anything. He searched his pocket for a long time and took out 4 1 yuan coins. I don't have change. Can I owe you 1 yuan? Humph. Tang Yin took the coins from Lin Yi's hand and angrily took the dress. She turned around and walked away, ignoring Lin Yi. Who did I offend? Did I ruin things with good intentions? Lin Yi flicked the 50 yuan bill in his hand and put it in his pocket. He then walked towards the food street. Tang Yin calmed down after a few steps. She thought about how Lin Yi treated her. He wasn't like other rich kids who clung on to her. He seemed to be using a different method. He was neither cold nor warm to her. He would stand up for her occasionally to show his gentlemanly side. Humph. So it was like that. Tang Yin stomped her feet. She fell for Lin Yi's trick again. He asked her for money on purpose. He wanted her to lower her guard and achieve his goal. Tang Yin wanted to throw the dress on the ground and stomp on it, but she didn't want to. She sighed and walked back to her barbecue stall. Did you buy the dress? Mrs. Tang looked at the dress in Tang Yin's hands. It wasn't the first or second day that Tang Yin liked this dress. She'd seen it before because it was too expensive, but Mrs. Tang had encouraged her today and told her to buy it. Tang Yin finally made up her mind. Yeah. Tang Yin stuffed the dress into her bag and answered absent-mindedly. How much did you spend? Did you get the price? Mrs. Tang was busy with the barbecue stall. She didn't notice her daughter's expression. 45, Tang Yin said faintly. 45? Is this for real? Didn't the owner want 200? How did he get it that cheap? Mrs. Tang was surprised. Some annoying person helped me haggle the price. Tang Yin said angrily, All right, Mom, let's not talk about this. I'll help you. Mrs. Tang shook her head. She didn't know who Tang Yin was talking about. She should be thanking him for helping her haggle the price. Why would she hate him? Lin Yi turned a corner and went back to the place where Meng Yao and Yu Shu were eating mushrooms. The two had just finished eating and were getting up to pay the bill. Meng Yao raised her head to see Lin Yi walking towards her with a pair of oversized underwear in his hand. Yu Shu heard Meng Yao's question and raised her head to see Lin Yi. Shield bro, where did you get a pair of underwear? Yu Shu asked curiously as she looked at the underwear in Lin Yi's hand. I bought it over there. Does it look good? Lin Yi said as he gestured at his body. Oh. Meng Yao curled her lips. You don't look like a good person wearing it. I remember there's a phrase in elementary school called Old French Gangster. Yu Shu nodded. Lin Yi was speechless. I'm not going to talk to you guys. There's something wrong with your taste. I bought it for 15 kwai. Wah. It was Meng Yao's turn to be speechless. 15 kwai and you're showing it off. Yushu covered her mouth and giggled. Only Lin would do something like that. All right, let's go home. Shield bro, if you really like the underwear, why don't you put it on and show us? You can't change it out on the streets, can you? Shoo, what's so good about him wearing underwear? Did your hair change color? Mengyao said as she pinched Yushu. I thought you wanted to see it. Yushu blinked innocently as she looked at Mengyao. You were so surprised just now. Chapter 107. Well, Sima Yao was just about to call Lin Yi over to the food street when she noticed something with a frown on her face. Who parked their car here? What's wrong with their manners? Lin Yi saw it as well. Meng Yao's Audi S5 was surrounded by a couple of sports cars, but the cars weren't very high-end. There was a Geely Jaguar, a Hyundai Royale, and an Audi TT, the best of which was a grade lower than the Audi S5. A couple of fashionably dressed young men started whistling as they saw Lin Yi, Meng Yao, and Yushu walk over. Your car. Lin Yi looked at them, guessing that the car they were surrounding belonged to them. There was no way they'd show up here, so coincidentally otherwise. Bro, is that your car? A fashionably dressed young man asked Lin Yi as he looked at the Audi S5. Move your car. Lin Yi didn't answer his question, instead giving the order with a dark face. What are you talking about? One of the girls pushed the young man away. It's just an S5, right? It's not like I can't afford it. I saw you're the latest model, so I wanted to talk to you. The car's mine. Who the hell are you? Don't block the road. I'll call the cops. Meng Yao frowned, not really interested in the girl. She'd run into things like this before, but she'd always call the cops to resolve it. HM, this car's not yours. The girl looked at the keys in Lin Yi's hand curiously. Driver? Doesn't look like it. You're her toy boy, aren't you? Fuck off. Meng Yao exploded. Did this person know how to talk? What did she mean by toy boy? Couldn't he tell that he was her fighter? Lin Yi, get them out of here. Ugh. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Did you hear that? My miss is telling you to leave. Your family's young miss? The delinquent girl was stunned. Oh, I understand. So you're a bodyguard. Lin Yi didn't explain much and just nodded. Boring. You're quite handsome. I thought you were a young master. The girl turned around and looked at Meng Yao. Since the car's yours, let's have a race. Do you dare? Is there something wrong with him? Compete in what? I'm not an idiot. Why would I race? Meng Yao said. Why didn't you move the car? I called the police and asked them to tow the car. Tisk, do you want to fight? The girl looked at Meng Yao in disdain. It's not like you can't stop here. So what if the police come? Lin Yi, you take care of this. Meng Yao pointed at Lin Yi, pissed off. Me. Lin Yi pointed at himself. But since the miss had spoken, if Shield Bro didn't act now, when would he act? Lin Yi took 2 steps forward. Are you guys not going to move the car? Lin Yi didn't want to be rough with these rich young masters and misses. Most of them weren't bad people, but they lacked discipline in their families. That was why they were rebellious. They were different from the gangsters in the society. These people were just looking for excitement, while gangsters made a living by causing trouble. So what if we don't move? The girl put her hands on her waist. Which car is yours? Lin Yi looked at her faintly, a smile on his face. This one. What do you think? The girl pointed at the Audi TT in front of the S5. Lin Yi looked at the Audi TT and smiled faintly. This girl was obviously the leader of the group, and her identity was definitely not as simple as the others. Sports cars like Geely and Hyundai could generally be afforded by any well-off family. It was not a big deal, although the lowest configuration of an Audi TT was only about 500,000 yuan. One could tell from the car's license plate that the girl's family was definitely not simple. The license plate of the Audi TT was ATT000. No wonder the girl was so arrogant. However, Lin Yi didn't care. As long as he didn't cross the line, Even if the girl's family was powerful, he wouldn't mess with her. And from the car that the girl drove, it could be seen that her family wanted her to keep a low profile. This car plate was probably bought by someone else in the family or a friend to please the girl. Lin Yi walked to the front of the Audi TT and placed one hand on the back of the car. The girl and the others quieted down and looked at Lin Yi strangely. They didn't know what he wanted to do. "I say, this idiot isn't thinking of pushing the car, right?" The young man who spoke before spoke. He seemed to have seen through Lin Yi's intention. "Are you stupid? This car weighs a ton. The handbrake has been pulled up. Can you push it?" Lin Yi didn't pay attention to him. His hand turned into a palm and quickly pushed the back of the Audi TT forward. It looked like a simple palm, but the Audi TT was directly pushed forward. With a chi sound, a row of tire marks was left on the ground. F***CK, are you serious? The young man who had arrogantly called Linny stupid was instantly dumbfounded. "You can push it." "My car." The girl was shocked. She was shocked and distressed. She couldn't help but exclaim when she saw that her tires were damaged. However, Lin Yi didn't go overboard. She wanted to cause trouble, but she didn't have an excuse. The cause of this incident was that she had blocked someone else's car. Thinking of this, the girl looked to the young man for help. "Are you King looking to die? How dare you touch Sister Feng's car? Do you want to die?" It wasn't the first time that the young man had acted as a protector. In this kind of situation, it wasn't easy for the girl to stand out. He didn't have any scruples and jumped out directly. "Sister Feng?" Lin Yi was shocked. Could it be that he had encountered a legendary figure? He looked carefully at the girl's face. This wasn't Sister Feng, right? Even if she had makeup that looked like a ghost, she still looked different from Sister Feng. It was probably just someone with the same name. Lin Yi ignored him and pulled him to the side. Under everyone's shocked gaze, he pushed the modern lawns, who was blocking the S5, to the side. Although it was surprising to see him push the Audi TT from the back of the car, anyone with a bit of strength could do it. However, pushing the car from the side of the car horizontally was much more difficult than before. One could imagine the resistance. The young man wanted to say a few more words, but he saw that Lin Yi had a lot of strength. Moreover, they were in the downtown area. It was fine to cause trouble, but it wasn't good for a group fight. Therefore, he froze after saying the word "you." Chapter 108. Find someone to investigate him. Lin Yi didn't say anything after pushing the car, completely ignoring the delinquent as he got into Mingyao's Audi S5 and quickly moved the car out of the small empty space he'd just pushed out. The speed and precision of his maneuvering, it left everyone speechless. The empty space Lin Yi had pushed out wasn't big, just enough for a car to pass through. In other words, the distance between the cars on the left and right sides was less than 2 centimeters. It was hard for normal people to maneuver at that distance, and the slightest deviation would cause a collision. But Lin Yi had moved the car out without any effort at all, and it was so fast that it didn't seem like he'd even consider the possibility of scraping the cars nearby. A master. This guy was actually a master at driving. Xiao, the delinquent girl from before, felt her heart skip a beat. She'd thought that this guy was just someone with a bit more strength and a bit more handsome. Someone who'd caught the eye of a rich young miss as a bodyguard. She hadn't expected him to be this good at driving as well. Xiao frowned. She hadn't hired a personal bodyguard herself, but she knew the market for one. Hiring a bodyguard like Lin Yi, with good looks, incredible strength, and incredible driving skills. Putting aside the fact that it wouldn't be easy to hire him, even if she did hire him, it wouldn't be a small sum of money. Xiao was a little interested in the 2 young misses behind Lin Yi as well. She memorized the S5's license plate, planning to investigate it when she got back. Lin Yi moved the car out and didn't even look at Xiao and the others. He got out of the car and sat in the back seat. Mengyao only now realized that Lin Yi wasn't that hateful after all, At least he'd gotten her some face today. In the past, Meng Yao would have had no choice but to call the police, but Lin Yi pushed the car to the side in no time at all, moving it out of the way. He looked at Xiao Xiao, pleased with himself, and under Xiao Xiao's murderous glare, got in the car, stepped on the gas, and drove off. Xiao Xiao was really pissed. She didn't have any bad intentions. She just happened to see an Audi S5 that was released this year and wanted to see who the owner was. She invited him to a race, but she didn't expect to run into this guy. The car didn't belong to Lin Yi, but to Xiao Xiao, Lin Yi was even more despicable than the Mississippi. He was just a lackey for a rich miss. He was quite handsome and looked quite stylish when he pushed the cart. His driving skills were even better. However, he was a lackey, and he was still so proud of himself. Thinking that she was being bullied by someone else's lackey, Xiao Xiao was even more pissed off. What the hell was this? Even someone else's servant was bullying him. The next time I see you, I'll let you know how powerful I am. Feng sis, what do you think? The young man didn't know what to say. After all, someone who could afford an Audi S5 wasn't a normal person. Ignorance was bliss, after all, but his family did have some business dealings, and some of them were in the political world. They weren't that powerful, but they'd been in contact with Songshan's upper-class society before. They were people who knew the severity of the situation, and it wasn't wise to make enemies without knowing who the other party was. Their old man had some power, but it was only SOO. If they really pissed off someone powerful, they'd be in big trouble. If it were a normal person, the young man would have brought his men to give Lin Yi a good beating in order to please Xiao Xiao. But as the saying went, you had to look at the owner before you hit the dog, and Meng Yao was obviously not some lowly person. The young man didn't dare act rashly, in case he dragged his old man into the mess. What are you looking at? Let's go. Xiao Xiao humphed coldly, pissed off. Boring. Feng sis, should I get someone to look into that kid? The young man wasn't stupid. He knew that Meng Yao wasn't someone to be messed with, so he cleverly turned his attention to Lin Yi. As far as he was concerned, as long as Lin Yi wasn't with Meng Yao, it wouldn't matter. It was just a servant. They could do whatever they wanted with him. Even if something really did happen, even if the other party had some power, they wouldn't make a big deal out of a servant's family. Their families were all average, but Xiao Xiao's family wasn't. Go and check the license plate of her Audi S5, Songshan AS 5555. Not a bad brand. Xiao Xiao humphed, agreeing with the young man's actions. Got it, Feng sis. I'll get someone to check it right now. The young man nodded and took out his phone to make a call. His face changed immediately. Lon bro, what did you say? The car's secret? How's that possible? It's a civilian plate. It's a military plate? All right, I got it. The young man hung up with a bitter look on his face. Feng sis, this car's secret. Xiao Xiao, of course, had heard the conversation, and her expression wasn't any better than it was now. It was possible that the car was secret, after all. Her father's car was secret, and this was very common among government officials and people with high statuses. Normal people weren't allowed to look into it. But the young man's last sentence made Xiao Xiao frown. A local license plate from the military? That was interesting. A military plate wasn't something that just anyone with a bit of power could get their hands on. Even if they did get their hands on a military plate, it wouldn't be a low-profile military plate like this. But so what if it was like that? She wasn't the one she was looking for. It was that lackey of hers. With her father's status, even the military wouldn't be able to do anything to him, let alone her grandpa. With that thought, Xiao Xiao calmed down and turned to the young man. Then let's not worry about the car for now. Go look into that bodyguard's identity, see who he is, and which company he belongs to. No problem, Feng sis. The young man was a bit troubled when he heard that Meng Yao's car was secret military. With his family's power, they couldn't afford to piss off someone like that. But now that Xiao Xiao wanted him to focus on the bodyguard and not Meng Yao, he let out a breath of relief. I've already secretly taken a picture of him with my phone. I'll get someone to look into it right now. Chapter 109. He'd die if he kept practicing. Lin Yi, naturally, didn't think much of the kids from before. He was only a high schooler himself, but these kids were just like Pin Liang and Zhou roaming back at school, childish beyond belief. Hey, I'll get Faubert to get you a driver's license when we get back, and we'll get a car too. You'll be driving next time, all right? Meng Yao said as she glanced at Lin Yi in the rearview mirror. Oh. Lin Yi was deep in thought. He didn't pay attention to what Meng Yao was saying, assuming that she was talking to Yushu. Meng Yao was a little pissed off at Lin Yi's ignoring her. Hey, I'm talking to you. Me. Lin Yi snapped out of it. Miss, you're calling me? Of course I'm calling you. What else am I supposed to call Shu? Meng Yao was driving and didn't have the time to glare at Lin Yi. Oh, I'd be more than happy to say yes if you called me uncle, Lin Yi said with a smirk. Meng Yao blinked, realizing what Lin Yi was getting at. She slammed on the brakes in frustration. Yushu didn't react in time and almost crashed into the windshield. Yao, what are you doing? Ugh. I'm sorry. Meng Yao gritted her teeth at the sight of Lin Yi unscathed. She'd wanted to stop the car and shake Lin Yi a little, but Yushu was the one who'd almost gotten hurt. Lin Yi. Meng Yao was a little pissed as she turned to glare at Lin Yi. Did you hear what I said to you just now? What did you say? Lin Yi didn't hear what Meng Yao was talking about, thinking that she was talking to Yushu. He didn't pay much attention. It's nothing. Meng Yao didn't want to waste any more time with Lin Yi. She thought, my dad hired you anyway. You'll drive if I tell you to. I don't need to discuss anything with you. Oh, Lin Yi didn't think much of it, thinking that Meng Yao was throwing a tantrum. Meng Yao pulled Yushu upstairs with a huff when they got back to the villa. Meng Yao thought that Lin Yi was a bastard, that follower of her daddy's, and yet he was acting like that. Lin Yi naturally didn't take it seriously. She was a young lady, so it was normal for her to have a temper. She was too gentle to him, and it caused trouble instead. Today, after washing up, Lin Yi couldn't wait to fall asleep. He wanted to find Jiao Lao and ask him about energy. It was the first time that Lin Yi knew that energy could save people. He had thought that the energy in his body would only be effective for him, but he didn't expect that it could also help others. You're here? Jiao Lao was the same as yesterday, standing quietly in the Jade's virtual space. Jiao Lao. Lin Yi was a little excited when he saw Jiao Lao. Jiao Lao, what's with the energy in my body? How can it help others? Everything in this world needs energy to survive, but the way they absorb it is different. For example, humans and animals absorb energy from food, while plants absorb water and nutrients from the soil. You, on the other hand, can absorb energy from nature. Jiao Yazi explained. The energy you absorb is a little more complicated than the energy your body transforms, but it's similar in nature. This energy is effective for you, so it's naturally effective for others as well. It's just that you can convert it, but others can't. They can only use you as a carrier to absorb the energy you convert. So you're saying that the energy in my body can be transferred to others at any time. Lin Yi was a little excited when he heard this. If that was the case, others didn't need to cultivate and could also absorb the energy in his body to achieve the same goal. That's naturally impossible. Jiao Lao's words poured cold water over Lin Yi's head. At least after I studied the first level of the art of dragon mastery, I realized that it's impossible. I don't know whether the next few levels are possible, because I haven't seen the specific cultivation method, so I can't say for sure. Then what happened today? Lin Yi was instantly disappointed when he heard Jiao Lao's words. I've told you about what happened today. The reason why the old man was able to absorb the energy you released to him was because the energy in his body was no longer enough to maintain his normal cardiac power. Under such special circumstances, the energy in your body could only be used by him. Jiao Lao said, "Under normal circumstances, the energy in an ordinary person's body is already enough to maintain the work of the entire body's organs, so there's no need for your energy." My explanation may not be very clear because the cultivation method was left by Marshall Uncle, and I only know a little about it. Although Jiao Lao's explanation was a little complicated, Lin Yi still understood what Jiao Lao meant. Under normal circumstances, his energy would be ineffective for ordinary people. It would only work in an emergency. In other words, only when some parts of the body have problems will the energy be effective for ordinary people. Lin Yi asked, "You can say that, but this effect is only to maintain the work. It's impossible to restore these damaged organs." Jiao Yazi said, "This is what I said today. It's not a problem for you to save him, but it's impossible to cure him. I have other ways to cure him. Through acupuncture and decoction of traditional Chinese medicine, he can slowly recuperate." Lin Yi didn't feel disappointed this time. As long as he could save him, it was already amazing. He just needed to maintain it first and think of other ways slowly. However, he was not related to the old man today, so there was no need for him to take the initiative to give him follow-up treatment. If he was too enthusiastic, it would make people think that he had ulterior motives. Lin Yi got the answer he wanted, so he calmed down and prepared to continue his cultivation. However, just when he entered the state of cultivation, he was interrupted by Jiao Lao. "I say, Lin Yi, what are you doing?" Jiao Lao frowned and asked, "Cultivating." Lin Yi looked at Jiao Lao with some doubts. "Can't he see what I'm doing? You don't have the cultivation method of the second level. Why do you continue to cultivate? Don't you know that if there is too much energy in the body, without the correct cultivation method to guide it, it is easy to explode and die?" Jiao Lao stared at Lin Yi with an expression of, "Are you a fool?" Ugh. Lin Yi was shocked. I didn't expect there to be such a saying. Fortunately, I established a connection with Jiao Lao early. Otherwise, if I accidentally broke through the first level of cultivation outside, I might really explode and die if I continued to cultivate. But didn't I waste some energy to save the old man today? Lin Yi was a little embarrassed. Don't I need to make up for it? You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.